It's Tuesday night. You know what it is. You know what time it is. Live on the SLG Network and YouTube and other social media platforms. This is Sports with Rich. Good evening, everyone, for this Tuesday, November 8th, election night edition of Sports with Rich. And as always, we welcome your comments and questions in the queue, our social media platforms, and where you could reach the whiz. There he is, Robert Rizzo, my young protege, and me, Rich Mancuso, will be scrolled throughout the 2 hours or more of the program tonight that's stacked with everything. And, of course, I'm at Ring786 at Twitter, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, among other places, Latinosports.com, NewYorkSportsDay.com, two of the websites and many more that I write for. Hey, Wiz, tell the fans again who are tuning in for the first time where to reach you and where they can see your great writing.
Follow me on Twitter, RobertRiz994, Instagram, RRizzo4, Facebook, Robert Rizzo. Great to be back as always. Another crazy sports week. There's so much to talk about, but let me just get it started. Happy Election Day. Go out and vote. Do your part. I voted this afternoon. Got that done. But also, I didn't win the lotto. You didn't win the lotto. Usually, most of you guys that didn't win the lotto, watching today didn't win the lotto. So
Powerball.
It's tough for us. Yep.
Powerball. And I see you on the other side, but I don't see you moving around. I wonder if your signal is frozen a bit because do you see me moving around?
Yeah, I see you all good. I see you fine.
I don't see you. I don't see you moving around. Oh, now I do. You look like a mannequin there for a moment. I'm wondering. Anyway, everyone, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Would like you to do that. Leave your comments. Sports with Rich, and on my also here on the SLG Network Live, and also on my YouTube channel, Rich Mancuso. And enough of this and that. Let's get to it, Wiz, because we got to talk about MLB wrapping up and what's going now in an off season much shorter than it's ever been because of that stupid lockout that moved everything up. And the World Series ended. The latest World Series, as everyone knows, concluded as the Astros, they made history. Well, they made history because Dusty Baker won the World Series as a manager for those Astros for the first time, and the Astros' second World Series title, and they did it all right. This is a team that has everything. Great lineup, make contact with the plate. We've been talking through that through the postseason and throughout the whole season as a whole. A team that has it all, deep, rich, starting pitching, bullpen, bench, lineup, and they play baseball. They don't swing for the fences like the Yankees do here in New York, and then the Yankees wonder why they don't win. But the Astros, congratulations to them. They had the parade yesterday. Dusty Baker today looks like he's getting a 1-year contract to come back with the general manager, which surprises me. And maybe that's what Dusty wanted. I mean, he is the oldest manager in Major League Baseball. Maybe that's what he wanted. So, Wiz, how did they do it right?
A phenomenal season from beginning to end. They did it right from on all aspects: bullpen, hitting, pitching, defense. To begin this postseason, 11-2 overall. Those 2 losses came in the World Series. But overall, that season, Framber Valdez with breaking the quality start record, a combined no-hitter in the Bronx, being the juggernaut from beginning to end, April to October, and back to the bullpen, 0.83 ERA, lowest in a single postseason MLB history, 53 runs scored on offense in the 13 games, 17 homers with that. So when we talk about a blend on offense, that's what they do. Home run ball and put the ball in play.
They could be building a dynasty. Everyone's talking about it. 6 straight years, ALCS, second world title, in the last 4 or 5 years, including, take the pandemic 60 the season away. But that scandal is all history. They still talk about it, but they shouldn't. But that the Astros deservingly won this one with no controversy. They did it the right way, as I say. This guy, Yordan Alvarez, the home run ball. And, man, did he get hold of one. And we saw what he did. How Alvarez comes up with the big hit all the time. And in a World Series, the home run.
He's the most extreme threat in that Astros lineup. He didn't show it throughout majority of this postseason. 3 homers in the whole stretch, but 3 of the biggest homers for the Astros. He started in Game 1 against the Mariners, another Game 2 homer against the Mariners, and then the the World Series clincher in Game 6, just like that. And he's only 25 years old.
Yeah, that's the
This guy-
incredible thing. They're
it's
young,
only
they're
up from here.
athletic. Good point, including this young man, Jeremy Pena, who we know well through our writings in Latino sports, proudly holding the World Series trophy. He was the star of the parade yesterday in Houston, Texas, that was done so well by the city of Houston on such short notice. The MVP of the World Series, the MVP of the ALCS, a Gold Glove winner, the youngest shortstop to do that in Major League Baseball history, and the rookie shortstop who took over for Carlos Correa. And, that makes the Astros even more like, you know what I'm saying? They produce players. Here's a kid they found, wasn't a first round pick at 25 years of age, quite a future superstar, as we've been saying, in years to come. And the Astros would eventually have to look at locking him up long term.
For sure, they got to lock him up long term. He proved it this postseason, and another superstar out of Dominican Republic, Juan Soto, Wander Franco, you name him, he's on that list now. 345 this postseason with 4 homers, 400 batting average in the World Series alone. So for a rookie to be doing that, he deserves that MVP and some.
And kudos to those Philadelphia Phillies who gave the Astros a battle in 6 games. I picked the Astros in 6. I think you did, and the majority of the world did. That's how. But this was a good World Series. It had the combined no-hitter. It had the exciting home run board. It's got Jeremy Pena or Albert, as we're talking about. Great pitching, and the Phillies had a lead at one point in the series, up a game, and you got to give credit to the Phillies. They snuck in there as a 6th wild card out of the National League, only won 88 ball games. Robbie Thompson, in my opinion, could become manager of the year, yet he didn't fool a whole season through it. He's coming back. They renewed him. He's no more an interim manager. Philly fans ought to be proud of this team and very proud of their manager, Robbie Thompson. The problem with the Phillies in the last 3 games, they didn't hit. That's what lost it, not the controversy we'll talk about with the Wheeler move coming out of the game. The Philly fans were irate. Don't understand why they're so irate with their manager. He turned that team around. But they didn't hit. Wiz 0 for 31 and 17 strikeouts against the breaking balls of that Astros pitching staff. In fact, their top 5 in the lineup in those last 3 games, 4 for 54, 25 strikeouts in the last 3 games, and you can't win that way. The pitching was good. The hitting stopped.
Yeah, there's no shot you can win that way, included with a combined no-hitter in, I believe, Game 3, Game 4, right around there. 3 runs scored in those final 3 games with 71 strikeouts in the World Series total. So just like that, their magic ran out too late, and it was Game 5 and 6. You saw it struggling out the gate, and they could never come back from it. They were up 1-0 at the best in Game 6.
Now, Wiz, I had no problem with this because Robbie Thompson, either through analytics, which everyone knows, big part of baseball, I had no problem the way he managed that last game and removing Zach Wheeler. Normally, I would leave the pitcher in, but as Thompson gave the right explanation, left-handed matchup against lefty hitter, pitcher, hitter. He felt that was the time to do it. Wheeler didn't see this coming. Perhaps that was a bad move. You can look at it either way, but I had no objection to it. He went with Alvarado, who's been been their hottest pitches out of the pen, left-hander, down the stretch and in the postseason. What did you think about that?
I didn't have a problem with it to begin with, and seeing him all postseason, he was the hot hand out of the pen with Seranthony Dominguez. So those two right then and there. But as you said, the matchup lefty on lefty with Alvarez, you got to go with Alvarado, and I get it. You want to put Wheeler in that spot. He's your ace. Go down with the ship. He's one of those guys. But at the same time, you got to go with the best matchup, and I thought that was it. And it was a bad pitch. It was, I believe, a 2-1 count. And it was a dead fastball, and he missed his zone. So Yordan launched it it would have got out in any 30 ballparks.
What a home run. What a moment for the Astros there before their home fans, as the Phillies had to bow their heads. They didn't want to. They thought they were going to do it. And the Phillies certainly have a chance to do it next year. They might have to tweak a little couple of things. They might lose a couple of pitchers, maybe one or two out of pen. Most of their team is under contract control. Bryce Harper, of course. Let's take a look at him. Had a great postseason, but again, the last 3 games he fizzled out with a couple of others in that lineup. And Zach Wheeler and Adam Nola in the rotation. Things are looking good. They did in September down the stretch and in the postseason for these Phillies who came out of nowhere because they couldn't do nothing the first few months of the season. But again, Philly fans, you should keep your heads up high. This team is going to be a force to reckon with in the National League East next year, maybe in the years to come. Of course, things could change with this off-season already beginning to be hot and heavy. Free agent period's open. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Wiz, do you think the Phillies have enough to get back there next year?
I think they have enough, but the regular season is definitely going to take a toll on them. We've seen it in previous years. Whoever wins the World Series makes it to the World Series. It's kind of like that hangover after the following season. So just like that, you may see injuries here and there because we saw the lockout and how the season started late and the postseason started late also. So everything's getting rushed right now. You mentioned with the GM meetings. So there's a lot to be looking forward to for Philly. But overall, the NL East is a gauntlet.
Yeah, you're going to have 3 teams, and they're going to be busy in the offseason now. Very brief offseason. I saw something yesterday, 98 days till pitchers and catchers report to spring training. God, it just ended. But that's what happens when you have a season that was pushed back. So everything's moving rapidly. The GM meetings right now taking place in Las Vegas where the stones are starting to turn about possible movement that could happen a lot in the winter meetings at the beginning of December in San Diego. And so, the complexion of those 3 teams in the National League East, what you had going to the end may not be come spring training or into next opening season at the end of March 2023, which is not far away. I don't want to rush the way the months and days have been going, but I think it's going to be a very interesting division, competitive Mets, Braves, and the Phillies.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting. And this is honestly the first time since I can remember that the NL pennant winner might not be a favorite to go into the next season for their division. When do you remember the last time that happened? Because the Braves and Mets are right there. So let's see what those betting lines are come February, March.
Now, we're going to talk about some of these key players in just a moment. Who might stay, how much, and where. We're going to be general managers for a moment as they're meeting right now in Las Vegas to start some movement for this busy off season of free agency and trades that will follow afterwards to make your team better, to get where the Astros and Phillies were. And do you have an outstanding moment or play or whatever from this World Series, which I thought was great theater? It was terrific.
Yeah,
the ratings didn't show that, and we'll talk about that later on in the program. But I thought it was great. If you're a baseball fan, you had to love it.
Oh, you had to love it. There was so much action. As much as we didn't see offense at the end, we saw everything through and through. The combined no-hitter had to be my favorite. Also, Trey Mancini making the game-saving play, I believe, in Game 5. Those 2 plays alone, those are the 2 highlights for me.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, Jeremy Pena's, what he does were my highlight moments. And as well as that final Game 6, when you thought the Phillies got the lead, Schwarber home run, and let's not forget about him, but they stopped hitting. And then the Phillies pitching was very respectable, and Jack Wheeler did what he had to do. So, again, I'm not faulting Robbie Thompson for taking him out of the game. You got to win the game. And he felt that was the proper matchup. But one particular moment to me that I really enjoyed was seeing Dusty Baker smile in that dugout. Such a low, mellow key guy, a baseball guy. I call him a guru in many respects. Well-deserved. Well-deserved. He's tried to get it before. Now he finally got it. And when he I saw the hugs, I saw the smiles, and when I talked to some of those Houston Astros players during the season when they were here in New York, they played the Mets and Yankees in New York this season. And when I
Mhm.
talked to them, that was a prevailing question by me and a lot of other my colleagues in the media was, what do you like about Dusty? It's not so much
Oh,
that he's a player's manager. It's also the fact that he's a baseball man and not only does he care for his players, but there's something about him, the mystique about him to win and to do it the right way. And also how Dusty Baker straightened out things in Houston with the Astros after all the turmoil, that scandal of their world championship before.
yeah, it was such a historic season for Dusty Baker, and going into it, it was always he can't win the big game, and when he gets there, he can't win the big game. It was so consistent, and you heard it week by week. And for him to get over that hump, for him to get mobbed in the dugout after that final out, that's something you gotta love as a baseball fan, not just Astros fans, but overall baseball fans out there.
Well, Wiz, I still don't see you moving around. I don't know what's going on with the signal tonight, but I hear you well. I hope the fans see you, and I could see you, but you're not moving. You look like a mannequin. Yet you see me moving like I always do and fading in and out because I like to jump around. I don't stay still. All right. Now let's play general manager as the off season has commenced. A lot of activity to come. One or two players here or there signed, and then the trades, whatever will happen, can change the complexion of a team rapidly. And there's a lot of eyes on these guys we're going to talk about. Let's start first. We will go first with Edwin Diaz, who was inked. He's off the table. The Mets showed they want to win. The owner, Steve Cohen, has made his promise and his commitment. And Edwin Diaz, the top closer in the game to many, 5 years, $102 million deal with the opt-out clause also, and surpasses the contract of a relief pitcher that Aroldis Chapman had here in New York with the Yankees. Of course, Chapman's in limbo now. Is not probably not going to be a Yankee no more. What'd you think of that deal? Bringing
I
him
thought it was
back.
I thought it was a great deal on both sides, just a little over 20 per year, 20 million per year. And like you said, he's the best reliever in baseball, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Everyone check out the Latino Sports article that you wrote earlier in the week about the Diaz deal. But overall, 1.31 ERA last season, dominance across the whole year. And it's a 5-year deal. If they get 2 years of what they got this past year, the contract's worth it, just like that, in my opinion.
Yeah. The question is, will Diaz do the same thing he did this year? I mean, it was a tumultuous his first year in New York. Came over in the trade with Robinson Cano, and then he became a fan. The fans couldn't stand him. Then he became the great favorite for the fans. Will he duplicate what he did this past season? You know, he's still got your age on it. You know, he's young. He's not an old guy. I think he's not even 30 years old yet. And a
No.
lot of life in his fastball. And when that has command and location, along with the slider, Edwin Diaz is unhittable. That strikeout ratio showed it. The saves of 32 also showed it. Second in the National League and in baseball. The Mets have their closer signed now for the next 5 years. I hope he stays injury free, and the Mets can be happy about that. But they have a lot of other moves to make in New York, the Mets, including this guy, Jacob deGrom. He is one of the big baseball stars in New York that's being talked. The talk has started. Will deGrom still be a New York Met next season? Rumored that the Texas Rangers are going to be putting a big bid for him. My sources are telling me that Grom is leaning towards leaving New York if the Mets don't give him what. And what do you think he deserves? Personally, Wiz, I don't think the Grom's worth the money no more. He's shown that, yeah, he can do it, but for only a little amount of time, and he gets hurt again. And you got to look at his age factor here as far as signing him up long term with years and the contract he wants. What do you give him and how much? How many years?
Yeah, I'd like to keep it on the 3-year side. I feel like there's going to be teams out there other than the Mets that want to give him the 4 years, and it's going to be up to the Mets to be matching it. And if they don't, they might see their next Tom Seaver walk away like all Met fans remember seeing in the early
Yeah,
70s.
especially if he goes to Texas or somewhere else. What is the other team that we've been hearing that he's
Uh,
rumored that Vine going to vie heavy for
the
him?
the three teams right
Atlanta
now are
Braves.
Rangers, Mets, Dodgers, and the Braves, like you mentioned.
Can you imagine if he ends up on the Braves? I know he wants to, if he goes somewhere, he wants to be more south towards Florida where he makes his home. To be determined with Jacob deGrom. But I think the Mets are going to try and settle this as soon as possible within the next 2 weeks. And if deGrom frees up, the Mets have more salary to go with. Steve Cohen, who's the richest owner in baseball, says he'll spend. I don't think there's going to be a lock on how much he's going to spend. I just don't think he cares. I think he just wants to win and get that World Series that he promised the fans within that 3 to 5 year span or sooner. And they can get this guy, Trey Turner, who they always liked.
Yeah. Trey Turner is one of the best players in overall baseball, but we see him daily in the National League East before he got traded to the Dodgers. He's a superstar on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. I think he's going to get $280 million for 9 years total. And the three teams right now are Dodgers, Phillies, Cardinals, and the Mets. Adding the Mets, I heard about that too.
A lot of talk about the Mets really wanting to pursue him, but I think it's going to be all based on the deGrom contract. And also, they have to act fast on that as well, because other teams might be making that offer right now. This is what you're going to be hearing in the next few weeks. A lot of rumors and a lot of activity where the deal will be signed, sealed, and delivered. Turner would fit good in that Mets lineup, by the way. Carlos Correa coming out of an opt-in with the Twins. Twins made a good deal to get him for 1 year. How much does Correa get? Where do you think he ends up?
A lot of teams are going to be interested on Correa. It was weird last offseason how he wasn't a demanded target a lot of the time, other than the Twins and the Astros. But I think there's honestly 6 teams right now: Dodgers, Braves, Giants, Twins, Cubs, and the Phillies. And for a total estimate for me, $270 million, 9 years. I think he gets $10 million less than Turner.
He's going to get money. He's not going to get the richest contract in baseball, but he's going to get money. He had a pretty good year with the Twins, despite, you just didn't know much about it because the Twins just did not do what they were supposed to do as part of that American League West Central race with the White Sox and the Indians who won it. So Correa, if he ends up somewhere, he could end up with the Yankees. There's talk of that here in New York. And I know the Yankees have an interest in him, depending on what they want to do with that infield with their youngsters, in particular Pedraza. We'll see where it goes, but it all hinges on this. You talk about deGrom, baseball's talking about Aaron Judge, the face of the game, no doubt. The MVP is going to be in the American League, broke all the records, the home run record, the slugging, this and that, whatever, the whole thing. Aaron Judge, do the Yankees go all out? Give him $400 million.
Oof, that's the biggest question of them all. I don't think he's going to get $400 million. In my opinion, there's going to be a lot of teams out for him. Giants, Dodgers, Yankees, the top 3 right now. But total for me, the estimation, and you mentioned it, we were talking about it. He's the lottery when it comes to free agency. I think he's going to get 350, 360 million range for the 9 years.
Will he settle for that? Remember who his agent is. But I can't see the Yankees letting him walk. There would be turmoil in New York if he does, especially with Yankee fans. And again, he will not. The Mets are not going to vie for him. He will not be a New York Met. Stop the talk, Mets fans. Aaron Judge is not changing zip codes in New York. He is staying. If he stays in New York, he'll be in Yankee pinstripes and be there for a long time. I'd give him what he wants. I mean, the Yankees have to give him what he wants.
Yeah, after all the aftermath we saw in the beginning of the season, how the Yankees let the price tag go public, just like that, you let the fans know, it would be a big rippling effect if he
unless the Yankees feel that he's injury prone, which can be, though he came back very healthy this year, and they do this and that. It all remains to be seen what they want to do, because they do have a lot of questions, even Anthony Rizzo, who I think he declined he's on free agent list. A lot of them, over 150 more players filed for free agency yesterday, which is unbelievable. Some big names too that can help a lot of teams that still have it. They're not over that age limit, over the limit, as they say. And Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone had their State of the Union address with New York media last Friday, which I think was a total waste. We knew Boone was going to come back. He's on the contract. This guy, the GM, well, listening to him, as I wrote NewYorkSportsDay.com, it's like redundancy. It's the same thing. Brian Cashman can't give you the answer. And yet he's without a contract himself and just gives you a roundabout answer. It's the same thing like a video replay, as I wrote, that an umpire would do at Yankee Stadium. You got to wait and wonder. And that guy is a man that's got to negotiate with Aaron Judge and what he's going to do to make this Yankees team better because they're not good.
No, they can't get over the Astros. That's been their biggest crater all the last 6 years. But Cashman, the biggest takeaway I got from that press conference, it was the most basic answers to begin with, but he said process over results when it came down to it. 2 AL East titles since 2012, 3 championship series appearances since 2017, all losses. So just like that, process over results, something's got to give in there.
Something got to give because the Red Sox are going to get better. The Blue Jays will get better. And Tampa Bay will get better. The Rays. All right, something's got to give. This team is going nowhere right now with the lineup they have. And there's even questions about some of their pitches right now, their pitching staff. Jameson Taillon, too. He filed for free agency. So they have some things to do. And Brian Cashman, the so-called great architect who has longevity there and loyalty, they love him, will probably still be around to be the architect again. Well, anyway, a lot of that going on in baseball with the New York teams and all the others, and we'll keep you updated here on Sports with Rich as one of your vehicles to get the information through sources that I have and help the Riz out with that. Baseball offseason is going to be explosive this year, and it's going to be done rapidly, fast, because of the shortened period of time. Pitches and catches report in about 97 days. Unbelievable. Okay. All right. A lot more to come on Sports with Rich. And, of course, we're going to do the NBA talk tonight. We're going to do NFL, your picks. The Wiz and Avery will do that. But, one of the favorite parts of the program comes before we get to our special guest at the end of the break. We have, my time of the week is called what?
Fact of the week.
There we go. The fact of the week. And let's get to it. Avery and Wiz, you take a crack at it before we take this break. It deals with the World Cup. Soccer's premier event is back, begins next week. And if you're a soccer fan, you like a baseball fan marathon or an NBA marathon or an NCAA tournament marathon. Soccer 24/7, or as they call football. But the World Cup's been around a long time. And America defeated England in the 1950 World Cup. This is the fact, not trivia. That score was 1-0. But guys, I want to know this. Come on in, Avery, before we go to break. It was a 1-0 game. America defeated England back then in 1950 in the World Cup. 1-0 was the score, but reportedly, England won by a different score at a totally different margin of score. Give me the score that was falsely reported, and it wasn't the 1-0. It's a fact, not trivia, okay, about the World Cup. Got it, guys? Real quick.
I'm going to go.
Take a shot.
I'm going to go 6-4. Random final score there.
That's not it, Wiz. You could try again later. How about you, Avery?
Not back in the 50s. Maybe 3-0. Maybe 3-0 England.
Remember now, this was a fallacious score. This wasn't the real score. It was reported, the wrong score. So, but you were wrong too. So we'll try it again later. Aaron Judge bobblehead and much more still up for grabs for 3 months. I might keep it myself at this rate. Sports with Rich, back in a moment. When we come back, we have a very interesting guest dealing with the life of the late Ken Caminiti, a Major League Baseball all-star, subject of steroid controversy, and the author of a great book. We'll have the author coming on in a moment on Sports with Rich, and we look forward to that part of the show. And Dan Good is the author. His name eluded me for a moment. Dan is in the queue waiting. We'll be back, and we'll talk to Dan with me and the Wiz Robert Rizzo. That's AV, our great producer. Back after this. Like, comment, and subscribe here on the SLG Network, my YouTube channel, Rich Mancuso. On the other side after this.
Doing bad, they gon' love you. Yeah. Doing good, they gon' hate you. Yeah. Look down on your come up, but to the hustle, stay faithful. Big goals by the rate full. Drip everywhere, that's wasteful. Accent color, that's tasteful. We front and center at the tape. Got 3-5 in my blunt. Yeah. 4 extra mud in my cup. Yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. I was out of luck. Yeah, now my money up. Yeah, they feeling that. They feeling that. They feeling that. Show her in the truck, then throw it in the guts. Yeah, she feeling that. She feeling that. She feeling that. Niggas talking tough, yeah, till we pulling up. Now he feeling that. He feeling that. He feeling that. Save me a gold casket. My life been tragic. Yeah. Good gas and blunts pass. Blow out a nigga head gaskets. Fuck boys don't need them. Yo bitch crazy, better keep her. Yo niggas high when it's time to ride, but I bet that bitch start squeezing. Smoke sessions in the evening. Private chef and we eat it. It's a long way from voyeur to 4 years in Lamborghinis. Move different, can't see me. Only pictures ain't on TV. Tribe meetings and vibe readings. These space race like E.T. We had roaches in the kitchen. Now it's rooms in the villa. Took the cards I was dealt, flipped them. I'm the one who do the dealing. Did so much of my own, baby, I don't give a fuck about feelings. Everybody got a lot to say, but ain't nobody came with it. Fuck it, I spin it. Had it, I lent it. Trusted some niggas, now I regret it. I can forgive it, never forget it. Niggas still out there, I ain't gon' get it. Yeah, this is it, I can't slow up. Niggas muddy from the pole up. Big sauce like a cold cut. You either hoe up or you gon' blow up. Got 3-5 in my blunt. 4 extra mud in my cup. Yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. I was out of luck. Yeah, now my money up. Yeah, they feeling that. They feeling that. They feeling that. Show her in the truck, then throw it in the guts. Yeah, she feeling that. She feeling that. She feeling that. Niggas talking tough. Yeah, till we pulling up. Now he feeling that. He feeling that. He feeling that. Where the ghost mean power, you a star, Omari Hardwick. Seen a lot of hardships. We was taking long trips, talking through the glass. Gotta medicate with strong hits of ganja. Gotta watch how people move around you. My brother got sittings cause of snitch. Niggas dying over bitches. Niggas lie like it's religion. If you been down, you feel me. Gotta keep applying pressure. Double up, that boy can stretch it. Good credit or no credit, they need it, go get it. Lil' baby, this is me. What you get is what you see. And you best believe we wore red. Got 3-5 in my blunt. 4 extra mud in my cup. Yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. I was out of luck. Yeah, now my money up. Yeah, they feeling that. They feeling that. They feeling that. Show her in the truck, then throw it in the guts. Yeah, she feeling that. She feeling that. She feeling that. Niggas talking tough. Yeah, till we pulling up. Now he feeling that. He feeling that. He feeling that.
Do support our sponsors here at the SLG Network, including here Sports with Rich, Tuesday nights here live at 8 p.m. Eastern. Welcome in again. I'm Rich Mancuso. That's the Wiz, Robert Rizzo. And we continue the baseball discussion. By the way, Wiz, I got to congratulate Calvin and the crew back in Houston, the part of the SLG Network. We did our watch along last week, and it was great with them, and they deserved the World Championship. So congrats, Cal. I know we're still partying there in Houston, Texas, but we continue the baseball discussion now. Like, comment, and subscribe on the channel, and, of course, my channel too, Rich Mancuso on YouTube, and our social media handles as well. Let's bring in our guest for the night in this coming segment. We continue the baseball discussion. I think he's there. I believe he is. Author Dan Good, who, Dan, welcome to the program. Thank you for hanging in there with us and being with us tonight and giving us your time. Author of a outstanding book, Playing Through the Pain the late Ken Caminetti, who played for the San Diego Padres, MVP 1996 MVP season, among other teams. Also, a little time with the Atlanta Braves, Texas Rangers, and of course chronicled with his steroid addiction and the abuse. And it all comes out in this great book that Dan Good has authored, Through the Eyes of Ken Caminetti, Playing Through the Pain. And Dan, congratulations. I've read excerpts of the book, haven't received it yet. I'm going to get a hold of it. How did this all come to fruition with you and Ken?
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk tonight. I was always a fan of Ken Caminetti's. I was a fan of baseball in the 90s. Look at this guy. This guy was a badass. This guy was just fun to watch. He was a great player right in that middle of the 90s era. That was his moment. And, he was the MVP. He was the guy who was, diving, throwing people out from his butt, hitting home runs from both sides of the plate. And he was just a lot of fun to watch. He was gritty, an exciting player. And, I was really moved by his coming forward and talking about steroids in 2002 to Sports Illustrated. And I was really moved by his death 2 years later. I just felt like there was so much more there as a fan and as a journalist. I felt like there was so much more to his story to be told. And I just decided after a while, I said, you know what, if no one else is going to write this book, I feel like I'm going to. So I just started calling people and talking to people and researching his life. And a decade later, here we are.
Well, Dan, before I bring the whiz in, he's going to jump in and ask a lot of questions on this. I covered Ken for a long time here in New York when he came in town. And he was always good to me. Great answers in the clubhouse, on the field. Always had a persona about him. The fans loved his play, his hustle, how he played the game. And to me, he always gave me the honest answer. And I never approached him about the allegations, and then eventually came out about steroids. But this came out in the book. He admitted, I've made tons of mistakes. I didn't think using steroids was a cause of those mistakes. Now, in your research and discussions or whatever, what did you make of that? Why did you write that?
I mean, this is one of the quotes that he gave to Tom Verducci in 2002, and it really is backed up by the things that I learned too. He had been using drugs for a long time before steroids. This was street drugs. These were things that were hindering his play. They were bringing him down as a player. For him to use performance enhancing drugs was kind of a change of pace for him. I think he was really running hard in his life, and the things he was doing off the field were having detrimental effects on his play. So for him to turn around and say, I'm going to be a better player, I'm going to do everything I can to help my team, I'm going to take steroids to help me, play through this shoulder rotator cuff injury I had, and then it kind of spiraled from there. But, I think that he was completely honest and truthful when he said that. And I think he was probably accurate. When you look at all the things he did wrong in his life, I think steroids is a fraction of it. I think there were so many other things happening, and steroids gets all the attention, but, for a little while he was doing them properly and, under the care of somebody who was, watching out for him. And obviously, like everything else in his life, it spiraled out of control. But I think he was being completely truthful. And I everything I've learned over the past decade of research has backed that up, that, this wasn't his big regret. There was other things happening.
First off, thank you for joining the show, Dan. We really appreciate it. Finalist for many book awards across the country. First off, prestigious baseball book award for this year. Casey Award finalist by Spitball Magazine. Just right then and there, how does that make you feel?
It was really humbling when I found out. I found out a week ago. They announced the finalists, and I see my book in one of these award categories with Tom Verducci and Howard Bryant and Kostya Kennedy and all these other great writers. As somebody who was planning and working on this book for so long, I look at that list every year and say, okay, who are the finalists? And you see these names popping up again and again. And, you always, I think when you embark on a project like this, you want people to care, you want people to notice. and you want to be thought of in that group, and it's that hand stamp. It's such an honor. I don't even care if I win. I really don't. And I know it sounds cliche, but I don't. Just being in that group is such a big thing. And I'm so proud that people are paying attention and that people have noticed the story. You don't want to spend all this time and effort and, pour your heart out and then have no one notice. Like that would have been a horrible thing. And I think it would have been a disservice to Ken's story too. So it's just exciting that, it's reverberated.
You just said it, Dan. Noticed. You made it noticed because he's the first player that voluntarily admitted, and that the S side use of steroids. He was the first one to do that, and we always wondered why he would do that. But I guess the pain, the recovery part of it, as that you documented, and how he could get better from using performance-enhancing drugs. And, of course, the steroid era, that all came out, which the big controversy in baseball back then. Is, in your opinion, did this help him or did it hurt him? Image-wise, on the field, so forth.
It helped him at a time on the field. It definitely did. You look at his end of the 1995 season and 1996 season, he wasn't using alcohol or other drugs. He was completely clean outside of using performance-enhancing drugs, and his play reflected that. He was hitting home runs at a pace that he had not at any other point in his career. 1996, he hits 40 home runs. Every other season for the Astros up until that point, he was on the Padres in 96, but all those years in Houston, he's hitting 13 home runs, 18 home runs in 1994. He couldn't cross that threshold. And steroids helped get him there. I mean, he was definitely a better power hitter. It did change his game slightly. He wasn't as graceful, I think, in the field once he started using, but he was a power hitter, and he was a great power hitter on steroids. Yeah. It really, the problem and that downfall, the separate side of it came when he started mixing the steroids with drinking and with doing drugs. When he backslid on his addictions and he's mixing in steroids, that was a big problem. And then starting in 1999, he started to get his steroids from different places. Up until that point, he had been working with a friend of his who had been supplying him steroids and helping him to take the drugs properly. And then he started mixing and matching and doing other things and taking drugs that were really kind of toxic for him. So it was this piling on of issues, but, it was that, that short-term benefit, and it was great and helpful for him in that time. And then it was all the consequences that came after that.
It's such a sensitive topic across the sports world. How were you able to get all the sources? How difficult was it to branch out and find sources and the people willing to discuss this sensitive topic?
It wasn't easy, and it's a good question. It wasn't easy because, it was so emotional. All these people wanted to help Ken. They cared about him. They loved him. They wanted to see him happy and succeed in life. And, there was a lot of regret and personal turmoil for people who felt like they could have done something else. Maybe they could have had a conversation with him, said something more to him to help him. So there was a lot of regret on that front. I do think some people talked to me out of that regret, that they felt like because they let him down or they could have done more. I'll talk to him, I'll talk about him now. I want to keep talking about him, and then there was other people who did not want to talk at all because it was too emotional. And I completely understood that. It is not an easy topic. It's not an easy story to talk about. And there's so many nuanced and difficult angles to it. So it ran the gamut. But I really was appreciative of getting so many people to be able to talk about him. And I think the fact that I was able to get so many people is a reflection of the good-hearted person he was. If he was
that he was, yeah.
Yeah. And
now,
that from interacting with him.
Yeah. Now you talk about the good person he was. Tell us more about some of the reactions, some of the people you talked to, players, personnel, whatever, through the course of you putting this book together. And give some thoughts. What did they say about this? Playing through the pain is the title is so apropos to what you wrote about in Ken's life. What did they say about him, the player, the mentality, and more so about him, what he did using performance-enhancing drugs to get better?
Players love to play with him and they love to play against him because they so respected him. You know, I was talking to Matt Williams years ago in spring training about Ken, and he basically said that Ken was the gold standard at third base. Here's Matt Williams, who's winning Gold Gloves all through the early 90s for the Giants.
Yeah.
And he's saying Ken was the guy. You know, Walt Weiss was another guy I spoke to who played against Ken and just loved those competitive, you know, the back and forth of it. There was a play that Walt Weiss made in the 1999 playoffs. It was Astros Braves, and the Astros had the bases loaded, and there was a ball hit to shortstop, and Walt Weiss dove toward the outfield and was able to snare this ball and threw home to get the out. The Braves end up winning the game. It was one of the greatest defensive plays
I
you'll ever
remember
see.
that well. I remember
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And after the game, Walt gets a call in the clubhouse, and it's Ken. Ken is saying to him, I just saw the replay, and that was a heck of a play. Like, just all respect, that competitive nature, that competitiveness really came through. And, you know, people really appreciated that. You know, there were so many younger players I talked to as well who Ken would take under their wing. Phil Nevin, George Arias, and you know, and he would help and mentor them. And these are guys who are up to take his job. You know, his team's going to trade him away or let him go in the offseason because these other players are available, and yet here he is helping them. You know, I think that says a lot about him.
What did Phil Nevin say about him? Because it's a manager right now of the Angels, of the Padres. Right? So what did he say about him?
So when Phil Nevin got drafted #1 by the Astros ahead of Derek Jeter, he was the hot shot. You know, he was brought in to take Ken's job. He was going to play third base for the Astros. And there were a lot of players on the Houston Astros who were resentful of Phil because of that hotshot nature. He really just kind of acted like he belonged. And I think a lot of the veteran players are like, come on, you have to earn your keep here. And instead of brushing him aside, Ken invited him to Houston to work out with him during the offseason and said, I want you to see what it means to be a major league player, to work like a major league player. He wanted to show him the ropes. And that mentorship really meant a lot to Phil. It's interesting because, you know, Phil didn't work out in Houston. He gets traded away. And then after Ken left the Padres, Phil went to San Diego in 1999. So he ends up like kind of filling his shoes twice. But he was just really respectful and appreciative of the mentorship, you know, even in those little glimpses that Ken provided for him. And I talked to him, I think it was like 2014. He was a minor league manager at the time, but it was just, you know, interesting to get his perspective because I really didn't know what to expect when I was getting ready to talk to him. And, you know, here he is, you know, spilling out his heart about this guy.
Yeah. Dan,
How do you
did
think?
you get? Yeah, get Wiz, and then I'll ask him. I got to ask him a question. Go ahead.
How do you think Ken's stories and your efforts of the book impacted this current state of the game regarding steroids and drug addiction?
I think that Ken's story is reflected in the way that teams now care and care differently about players who are battling substance abuse issues. You know, I look at the way that Josh Hamilton was handled by the Rangers and other teams in which he had, you know, people around him, you know, accountability partners. There was more effort there, you know, and I think that there's more focus on the mental health aspect of the game. You know, when Ken was playing, it was, if you're ready to go, you're going to go. You know, in 1993, the Astros were really worried about Ken, you know, and Art Howe and some of the front office staff actually talked to Ken. And Art Howe talked to him and said, you know, if you want, we could say that you pulled your hamstring and you can go get help for things that are going on in your life.
Oh, I know Art Howe loved him. When I interviewed
Yeah.
Art Howe when he was a manager of the Mets here in New York back then, that was one of the players I asked him about. And he could say nothing wrong about him. He could say
No.
nothing wrong about him. So I agree. Ken, have you received any negative feedback at all about this book? Because let's face it, this was a controversial ball player. And this is a very sensitive topic with baseball. Have you gotten anything about that? And my other question is, what have you learned about PEDs through the course of all this for yourself?
It's interesting. I'll answer the second question first. The thing that I learned about PEDs in baseball is, as a fan, I was so against it. I said, all these cheaters, like, get them out of the game. They don't belong in the Hall of Fame. Like, it just so clear cut, black and white. And as I started really diving into this book and talking to people and recognizing the scope of the problem, you realize that you can't put this back in Pandora's box. You can't fix it. You can't go back and make like these players are completely clean and these players are completely dirty, and only these small segment of players is affected by this. This affected every player, and we don't know. I mean, we've had dozens of players from that era now elected into the Hall of Fame, and we don't know that all of them are clean. And we, in fact, had David Ortiz, who, according to reporting, has failed a drug test in 2003, now elected into the Hall of Fame. So that boundary has been crossed. We don't know about all the other guys. We don't know who did and who didn't. And I think it's really difficult for the moral back and forth of, we'll say, focusing on Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens, some of the big names, when you have Bud Selig in the Hall of Fame. You have other players from that era who may have used that we don't know about. In terms of the book itself, I've gotten a lot of great feedback. I've got a lot of, appreciation, respect. I think there's certain people here and there who are concerned about the difficult things, the topics being covered, about drugs and about all these other issues going on in Ken's life. But I think I handled those topics in such a nuanced manner, and getting 4 and 5 sources on different things. There were so many things that I wanted to put in the book that I couldn't, that I didn't feel comfortable doing, just in terms of a reporting angle. I didn't have it.
Could you share that with us? Could you share some of that with us at all, if you can?
Not necessarily. I mean, it just, you look at, it's so complicated because you look at Ken's story and you look at when he signed with Houston after the 1998 season. He helped the Padres to the World Series. He gets an offer from the Tigers for $21 million in 3 years. And he goes and signs with the Astros for 2 years and $9.5 million. He took such a big discount that the deal required special approval because he was leaving so much money on the table. And then you look at all of the issues going on in his personal life. His personal life was really crashing down around him during that World Series. He was falling down on the field. He was really struggling, but he was struggling on a personal level too. His personal life was like falling apart. And all those little details you don't recognize at the time. You just say, oh, he's going to go to Houston to play with Biggio and Bagwell again and, be closer to his family. You don't recognize all of the ruin and all of the wreckage happening. But there were so many people that I talked to that tried to tell me these little nuggets and tidbits. And it's like, this doesn't match up with anything anybody else has told me. And then I go to other sources and they say, no, that's not true. That didn't happen. And you're like, okay, now what do I believe? It's really tough to, play those mind games and trying to figure out like who's telling the truth. And a lot
tell
of
me
times,
about it. I know.
Yeah. A lot of times it's not even people being nefarious or trying to hide something. It's that their memory has warped, 20, 30 years later. You're not going to remember things exactly as they happen, but how your brain interprets them.
Well, it's so true what you say. And then I remember him again as that player that gave it all and struggled through injury after injury. And I could understand at that time PEDs were available. I wrote about this many times. Yeah. I used to see these things in the locker stalls and in the clubhouses, and we were told to just keep quiet if we saw certain things, and I generally did. But some guys would break it that there was something there that didn't look right, and of course, then you would see the physiques, and then you wonder why or how a player, in this case Ken, could just go through these injuries and get back on the field so quick. The recovery time, and then it all came out. Why? I mean, we know what PEDs can do. Have you learned anything else from this, and Wiz and I have already discussed with you, as far as respecting these guys that did PEDs, take Ken Caminiti out of the equation here right now. Have you learned anything or respected them more, or why they did this? Or do you have any type of bitterness towards it? How it really put a dark eye on the game, black eye.
It did put a dark eye in the game, and for that I am disappointed. You know, I wish that we could look at Bonds and McGwire's home run marks and Sammy Sosa's and say, "Wow, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. This was the record." I mean, you have people now with Aaron Judge's, home runs and saying, "Oh, this is the legitimate record," and all these other ones aren't. It's like, well, you look at the record book, and the record book says that they're there, that those are records. I wish that the game had better policed itself. I wish the game would have been paying more attention instead of just burying its head in the sand and making like this wasn't a problem. I do have a deeper respect for some of the players who did use. I talked to Richie Lewis, may he rest in peace. He passed away a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. He was a pitcher. He was a journeyman pitcher. He was on the Marlins. He was on the Tigers. He was on the Reds, A's.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
He was a fireball. He was awesome at Florida State. He was overused in college, and he never quite had that pro career that he probably could have had. But, he's deciding, I'm going to use this or my career is over. Maybe I can have one more season. Maybe I can come back from this Tommy John surgery a little bit faster. I get it. I understand that. That's a complicated thing when your whole life, your whole livelihood is wrapped around baseball and you're faced with the possibility of never playing again. Your best money-making days are behind you. You're missing everything that you loved, in this game, in this sport. And now you're faced with this possibility of, turning the page and doing something else. It's a heavy, heavy thing. And, I think a lot of guys ended up with those decisions to make. Do I want to play one more season? I talked to Phil Garner, who no one would ever even think about using steroids. And in the late 80s, he had a back injury and he was recovering. And he actually considered this for a long time. Do I want to take steroids and continue playing? And ultimately, he said, I'm going to retire. This is it. I'm done. But the fact that Phil Garner's thinking about it really opens the door for anybody from the 80s on forward to say, hey, maybe I'm going to give this a try.
Yeah, and when the commissioner didn't care and let it continue, Bud Selig in particular, because it was putting fannies in the stands and it meant money. And so he didn't care, and then everything just blew out of proportion. Fantastic comments and great analyzing the Ken Caminiti story from you, Dan Good, the author of a great book. I encourage you to get it, published by Abrams Press. Playing Through Pain, Ken Caminiti, how steroid addiction and other demons got to him, but it was the pain and why he played through it. Ken was someone I admired as a ball player, no matter what happened, and the respect he gave us in the media too. That no question, through everything, he gave us a lot of respect. I'll always remember that about him. I'm so glad that we were able to connect, Dan. Wiz, any other final questions for this great author? And I hope we have him on again.
My final question, and we talked about it a little here and there, but speaking on the mental health and the addiction across MLB, how do you think it's changed since 2000, 2002 to where we are today?
I think there is more visibility on these issues, but you look at the Tyler Skaggs situation and recognize that these things are bound to happen. I mean, players are going to do whatever they can and take whatever they have to stay on the field, to be effective, to be the best that they can be, especially when so much money is on the line. And I think that is really something that baseball and sports in general really need to pay attention to. But I do think that baseball is doing a better job of being more aware and cognizant of these things, of paying attention to these things, of trying to root out problems in the game. And there have been efforts, on a mental health front, employee assistance programs and other sorts of things that are more commonplace now than they were when Ken played. So that's a good thing. That's a promising thing. But again, it's something that every sports league, baseball and all the other ones have to be vigilant about. This is something that could crop up at any time, and is always going to be an undercurrent when all these factors are at play.
You're right. Avery, put the cover. Do we have a cover of the book, Avery? I think we have a cover of the book. There it is.
There we go.
There's Ken at third base. So let him rest in peace. The title of the book again, Playing Through the Pain, Ken Caminiti, by Dan Good, Abrams Press, the publisher. Hey, Dan, this has been great information, great sharing the story with us, me and the Wiz Robert Rizzo here on Sports with Rich. How do people reach you out there? If they want to send you an email, or I know they can get a copy of the book, we'll plug it, but do you have an email or a social media account? Anybody tuning in right now might want to, I don't know, I'm on, if you don't mind. Oh,
of course, I'm on Twitter at dgood73. I have a Substack page. I post pretty regularly on that too. I'm pretty available if you want to find me, but Twitter's probably the best way to reach out. I'm constantly there and happy to talk to people.
Is this your first book, by the way?
No, I've written many other ones. I've written more than a dozen. Most of them have been ghost written, so my name's nowhere near the cover. I've written a couple other ones with my name attached to it, but this is the first really big project that took so much time.
I'll give you a bigger one, my friend. When I write my life story, because there's something to it. We'll keep in touch. I know how to reach you. All right. Man, thank you, my friend, for taking the time. Appreciate it.
So much.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan Good. And again, the Playing Through the Pain of Ken Caminiti, steroid Wiz, that was great. As like I said, and I told him, I knew Ken. I mean, I didn't know him well as a friend, but knew him as a reporter, player, relationship. Me and a lot of media guys, and we knew he played through pain, and we saw it. And then it all came out. And the late Ken Caminiti, as much as he can be knocked for what he did, but you got to admire this part. I'm not an advocate of PEDs or drugs. Everyone knows that. But what you had to admire is how he did this to keep playing and not so much looking for a contract or a record as a lot of the other cheaters did during that time with PEDs. So I was enlightened even more now about Ken Caminiti through this.
That was a key takeaway, because a lot of guys go for the records, go for the money. He was doing it for the wins, for his ball club, just to get to that promised land. And I'm glad I got to ask Dan about interviewing and getting so many sources.
Yeah.
He did over a decade's worth of research, interviewing over 400 people. So to have him on this program, thank you to Jerry Milani, and thank you Dan, for taking time out of your night. Jerry for lining this up for us. I was more than happy to do it. The minute Jerry made contact about it, Jerry's a great PR guru executive in the New York area. There's a lot of events, and this was one of them. And I tell you, one of the highlights since doing this program was talking, and we've had a lot of them. And since we started this Sports with Rich Watt back in March, April, whenever we started, whatever, it seems like an eternity right now. But this was great. Dan Gould was great. And Avery, put it up one more time. I have to do it before we go to break and get to Keep It in the Ring. Put the cover up again. There it is, Playing Through the Pain. The author, Dan Good, and Abrams Press. Also available on Amazon and the other place you could find great books such as this one. All right, Wiz, let's move on. We're going to Keep It in the Ring coming up next. A lot of boxing talk, a lot of pro wrestling. We'll bring Ray in with the wrestling. And boy, do I have a lot of boxing news to talk about, including a sad story as well that came out of about this weekend. This is Sports with Rich. I'm Rich Mancuso. That's the Wiz, Robert Rizzo, live on the SLG Network and my YouTube channel, Rich Mancuso. Do like, comment, and subscribe. And leave your comments and questions in the cube at the bottom, and our social media handles are there as well. Back with Keep It in the Ring after this on the other side.
All right, top of the hour, a little after 9 p.m. Eastern here on a Tuesday, election night, November 8th. Rich Mancuso, there's the whiz, Robert Rizzo, my protege again. Sports with Rich, live 8 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday on the SLG network. And my channel, also Sports with Rich. Like, comment, and subscribe. Ring 786 at Twitter, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. And the Wiz's handles are what?
Follow me
Again,
on Twitter.
I never
Follow
remember
me
that. It scrolled at the bottom.
Follow me on Twitter, RobertRiz994, Instagram, RRizzo4, Facebook, Robert Rizzo. Catch all my daily content on Latino sports.
Great writing, by the way, by the whiz, Robert Rizzo, LatinoSports.com. Catch his work there. Great coverage of the World Series. And, of course, prior to that, the postseason in New York with the Yankees and briefly with the Mets. More baseball we'll talk about later when we wrap up the show, but this time now, Cole, keep it in the ring. Boxing, and then the wrestling will come on a little while after that with Ray and a lot of boxing talk. Let's get to it right away. Dimitri Bivol just about stapled himself into being the fighter of the year. And let's take a look at how he handled Zuro Gilberto, I want to do it right, Ramirez of Mexico. Light heavyweight titles stay with him. And now Bivol has to look at where does he go from here? Is it a rematch with Canelo at 175? Canelo would have to move up and weight again. Or does he get Artur for the undisputed light heavyweight championship? Either fight would look good for him. Maybe Canelo wants to find him again, Wiz, at 168, where Canelo is the undisputed champion. But Bivol is real, as I say all the time. Technical fighter. And that's not to take anything away from Zuro Ramirez, because he knocked guys out, and he has power punch. But Bivol is the type of fighter so technical you can't get to him.
Yeah, watching, I caught up to Bivol during the Canelo fight, and ever since, you notice it fight by fight. This guy, he's on the top of his game, and I honestly want to see him go against Beterbiev and see what that fight's like.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. What Benitez has coming up, and then the sad news: Showtime Championship Boxing is David Morrell Jr., the young Cuban who's only 8-0, but he's a champion. He's part of the WBA Super Lightweight Championship. It's all crazy, but this image stands, and you have to look at it because he won a vicious fight, at the last round as it went decision. And Morrell had a help up. Adios, and I can pronounce his name, from Kazran, and I have a hard time pronouncing his name. Your Bassignoli. And the reason he picked him up is because he took a lot of punches. Boxing is brutal. We all know that. And this proved too brutal because it was learned on the Showtime telecast. Everyone heard it that Adios had to be sent to the hospital right away. And now he is in induced coma. And we'll take it from there. Our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. And David Morrell took this pretty bad. He's taking it pretty bad. But look, Morrell landed 39% of his punches. 47% were power punches, a career high 54 body shots. And in that 12th and final round, it all came out. And kudos to Morrell for how he had to concern for his opponent. And how he's still very much concerned. I think any fighter would be concerned. Our thoughts and prayers are Adios Noli right now. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name right. I usually kid about that. This was a tough one to pronounce, but more tough was because of the situation right now. And we hope he pulls out of it. We really do.
And we cover boxing day to day all the time. We see guys up close, and this is the brutal part about the sport that many don't talk about, and
right,
it's just so tragic. Prayers and thoughts out to the family, and I hope speedy recovery, and hope he just gets better from here.
Let's hope so. God bless him, and let's keep our prayers. And we want boxing fans and everyone to offer prayers to him and his family right now. And so that on again, off again, Spence Crawford fight to the undisputed title at 147 is off again. Crawford's moved on. He's got a title fight coming up in a few weeks on a different pay-per-view network. Tell you more about that next week. But here's the deal. They went back and forth on Instagram a week ago. Crawford went on Instagram and gave his side of the story. Apparently put up a hedge fundman was going to put up $50 million to get this going. Crawford had to go to Al Heyman and the PBC. That's his management team. And it went back and forth. But for the meantime, boxing fans are going to have to wait. Fight is supposedly going to eventually happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe both have to move on. And we'll never know who the best pound per pound is or best at 147 is. This is what the problem with boxing is. This is one example of it. This fight could be made. Bob Arum, who used to promote Crawford, was willing to do it. And Crawford didn't want to do it with Arum no more because he said that Arum couldn't deliver the fight. But now we don't have the fight. And they talk maybe February, March. I don't know. Both might want to go different ways. In fact, they're talking Crawford, Keith Thurman, Thurman against Spence right now, which would be a good fight, but not the one we want. So that's off. What are your thoughts on that, Wiz?
The way it's going right now, we're going to get baseball opening day before we get this fight. I feel like it's so on and off. It's like me debating, should I get off social media or not? And every freaking week, I'm back on it. So we're just going to see that week by week. It's going to change. And maybe, hopefully, by February, we get the fight that we've been all been
Hopefully. Last November at this time, it was really boxing season. Every weekend, one mega fight after another. If it wasn't Wilder Fury coming up, it was Canelo, it was someone else, whatever. Top fighters fighting every week on the networks, on the streaming networks, and pay-per-view. You couldn't take enough of it. In fact, I was saying, when is this going to end? And I'm a boxing nut, and everyone knows. But so we don't have that this November. What they're doing is because there's so many things that go into putting a mega fight together. Yet these guys, the fans want to see these fights going to win the next year now, including this one. If finally Benavidez doesn't have Canelo yet, Benavidez though has Khalid Plant. That came out this week. That's going to be a fight at 168. And who knows what will happen there. Benavidez, I think, will win the fight. Plant is coming off a win over David Durrell a few weeks ago. However, Benavidez has got too much great punching power. And he wins. Maybe we'll see him fight Canelo. But Canelo is going to be on the shelf till at least next September with the broken hand that incurred his last fight. Moving on, Wiz, let's talk more about some of the fights to come, what we can see. You're going to look at December 3rd, coming up soon. Juan Estrada, Chocolito Gonzalez, the trilogy, junior bantamweight title, that's on the agenda. So there are some fights. Maybe not the magnitude we had last November. Regis Prograis, November 26th, going to still be a part and get that 140-pound title mix. Jose Zapata, the vacant WBC 140-pound title on the zone. Josh Taylor, Jake Cottrell. Say February, they'll have their rematch for the disputed fight that they had the last time earlier this year. And Taylor won that fight controversial, so unanimous, a split decision. And then the title was vacated by Taylor. Typical boxing bullshit, much as I hate to say that. Madison Square Garden's going to have Teofimo Lopez coming up. He continues his march to overtake the 140-pound division in Madison Square Garden, December 10th. And then next year, you could look for other fights like Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. They're talking about putting that together. Shakur Stevenson in that title mix as well. And Tyson Fury and Usyk fighting for the heavyweight title. That's coming up. Maybe one. Josh was still in the mix. That should be coming up. That's coming up maybe next year because Fury has a fight coming up to defend his WBC title belt in a few weeks as well in London. And then there's UFC news, Wiz, before we get to Ray and the wrestling, who's patiently waiting in the wings for us. How about the scandal that went on? You heard about it?
Yeah, I heard a little bit about it. You informed me on it actually, and I'm
Yeah, I'm
supposed to be the
surprised you
UFC
didn't
guy.
know this. Derek, what's his name? Minner?
Yeah,
Is
Derek
that his
Minner.
name?
Mhm.
First round, and he wasn't punching back, striking, but no punching back. And that was a featherweight bout, and now it's being investigated by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and others for being maybe in the fix. UFC
Yeah,
under some controversy.
Big time. And this is the detail.
That doesn't happen there, does it?
No, not at all. And it's tough for stuff like this to come up. And all week, this is how the details came about. All week, the betting line for this fight was plus 180 on Derek Minner. He wasn't supposed to win the fight at all. He was in a favorite, and he was an underdog. An hour before the fight, the odds went to plus 330. So betting lines, you're expecting he was supposed to lose way more drastically leading up to the fight. And we found out that he had an injured knee. And that's what people are skepticating now. He injured his knee within the first minute of the first round. And his coach, James Cross, he is a retired fighter and has his own podcast called 1% Club Podcast. And it's about betting insights. So little stuff like that. We're gonna hear more about the case and the details, but
yeah, this is bad for the UFC. There's no question. This is bad. This is bad for the UFC. Not getting a lot of play, but I think it's going to get worse. And once this investigation comes to a head, it's going to get worse. And at the Madison Square Garden Saturday here in New York is a pay-per-view, UFC pay-per-view. You know this guy's better than me because I'm not a UFC guy. Everyone knows that. What is it? Estrada? It's a middleweight championship.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya's fighting. I'm blinking on the other name of his opponent. Adesanya's the main event, and anytime Adesanya fights MSG,
Pereira is his name. Pereira.
Yeah, I believe Pereira. That should be a good fight.
That's pay-per-view UFC Madison Square Garden in New York City this Saturday. We'll update you on that next week, and maybe no scandal there. But there's always a little scandal talk here when we talk Keep It in the Ring, and my favorite part of the program as well with Ray. Bring him in patiently waiting as we talk pro wrestling. A lot of that. We'll run down the horn. We'll go, hey, Ray, thanks for hanging in there, being patient, but I got to cover it all here on the program, and I always appreciate you coming on. Ray, the host of, what's the name of the program again on the SLG network, and when?
It is Off the Top Rope, and we air Fridays at 8 p.m. We run concurrently with SmackDown, and you can get our live reactions with SmackDown as it happens, and we talk about this past week in pro wrestling.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that now briefly with the Wiz, Robert Rizzo. Wiz, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, because I don't see you moving around. You stalled again.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All good.
All right, Ray, let's get to it because Crown Jewel lived up to expectations. I thought it was one of the better events WWE has done in a long time, except for WrestleMania. This lived up to expectations. And what did you think of this? Steve still buzzing about it now that he's hurt, though. He went all out. Jake Paul, Roman Reigns, the torn ACL by Paul. Look at that ability. What do you think of that? Jake Paul, to me, guys have been doing this for years, and he's only done it, within a year? And look what he does.
So that's Logan. Jake was ringside.
Logan,
who helped.
Jake was right. I always confuse the two brothers because I'm not a Paul family fanatic.
No, I know. I get it. And they do look similar. They're very similar. They could pass as fraternal twins.
Now, one's a boxer. Now one's a wrestler.
Right. So we'll get to that in a second. But speaking to the athletic ability of Logan Paul, he is, from what I have read and what I have heard, he is dedicated. He has spent so much time at the Performance Center honing this craft. He was a collegiate level wrestler.
Right.
So he's not new to wrestling itself.
Well,
like when you see him,
Shawn Michaels did a good job with him, but Ray, right now though, he's sidelined. He's whatever plan they had for him has got to wait 6 months or more, maybe more than that. He was
at least
injured.
9.
Yeah,
Wow.
and did you like? I loved it when he real wrestling theatrics. The cell phone in his hand. Did you see that, Wiz?
I saw
And
that.
he video he live, and it went viral, big. His flash from the top rope right onto Reigns onto a table with the phone in his hand, recounting the whole thing live in real time. That was clever, and I wonder if Triple H said, "Yeah, do it," or if it was spontaneous.
You know, it's tough to say if it was a planned spot or if it was spontaneous, because he has been known to just pull out his phone and kind of, video what's going on. I think it may have been like 60-40. Triple H going, "Hey, do that phone thing that you do," and just pick it up during a spot in the match. Unfortunately, that spot, from what I have heard, is the spot where he absolutely shredded his knee. MCL,
Yeah.
ACL, possibly a torn meniscus, and I think there was some damage to the LCL as well. So that was the spot that ultimately took his knee out. But the incredible part is everything after that spot he did with a shredded knee.
Yeah.
So that not only does that speak to
which earned the
athletic
respect of the others in that locker room, because there was a little resentment about this guy coming in out of some other orbit, and then all of a sudden is main eventing a major event, the WWE on Peacock as one of their events, Crown Jewel, which awful lot of money goes into that for the WWE from the Saudi Arabian princes and kings, or whoever they are back there. And he didn't have the respect because of the way he came in and did it. And all of a sudden, this just changed everything. Look, let's face it. He did more than expected, paid the price, but has a future with WWE. I'm sure you know that. But come in, Crown Jewel, Ray, also, Wiz, interject whenever you want. I know you didn't watch it. You're busy doing your football stuff. The bloodline, that continues. Roman Reigns is still the champion. And things are being set up for Survivor Series. This still is an incredible story with Roman Reigns, like him or not, and that whole bloodline, except when Sami Zayn is involved, and Zayn wasn't there because they wouldn't allow him in the country because of his views, political views, from what I understand.
Well, it's not so much that they wouldn't allow him in the country. He has been very vocal about not going there because he's from Syrian descent. His parents are Syrian. And as we
I
know,
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And as the Saudis' treatment of the Syrians is one of the reasons why he absolutely refuses to go.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
In other news, MVP was not almost his side because MVP is now an atheist. He was a Muslim. He is now an atheist, and that is punishable in Saudi Arabia with a very heavy penalty.
Yes, you see some of the things you look at when they go there to WWE because of different political differences or whatever, and nationalities and all of that. And that's something they got to look into, but they're not going to because, let's face it, a lot of money.
Dude,
they get $50 million a year from this stuff.
At the end of their 10-year contract, they would have surpassed almost $1 billion. This was almost $1 billion contract.
And they claim Crown Jewel. This time, Ray, the Crown Jewel was the highest viewed event on Peacock alone, and that it's even more, grosses more money than WrestleMania. Well, I don't know if it when you look at WrestleMania, that's their granddaddy, that's their thing, and brings a lot of money for a 2-day event. Survivor Series, where does Crown Jewel lead to all this going to Survivor Series? You've seen so much going on. There's so much to take in here with the bloodline. The Lashley Lesnar feud will continue, which I thought was a waste of a match. Lashley turning heel again. And then the mystique about Bray Wyatt continues. When is he going to get in the ring? And when are we going to know who Uncle Howdy really is?
I don't know. But and the
Maybe
best
you're
part.
Uncle Howdy. Maybe I'm Uncle Howdy. Maybe the Wiz is Uncle Howdy. Maybe
I'm
Avery's
putting my
Uncle
money
Howdy.
on Riz. I'm putting my money
There
on
you go.
Riz. But that's the best part about
I
Bray
know.
Wyatt, right?
I-
He's
it's-
not
it's
even
just-
in the
it's-
ring.
It's just dragging too much, and I think fans have had enough of it. As much as Wyatt comes in there and shows this other side of him, and the real side of him, and yet we haven't seen him wrestle yet, or who he's going to be in there with.
No, listen, I get that, but I've always been a huge fan of long-term storytelling because that's the era of wrestling that I grew up in, was long-term storytelling back when they only
Me
had
too.
4 pay-per-views a year. So you
Yeah.
had to make the storylines count, make
Yeah.
sense, and last. So this whole mystique around Bray
Avery,
is
yeah.
fantastic.
Avery, put up that Bray Wyatt in the ring image we have. And there it is again. And there's Uncle Howdy. And there's Bray Wyatt. And I'm just wondering if that's his younger brother. Could it be Wyndham Rotunda or whatever it is? I don't know. Is it,
Listen, it
is
it
it
could
Alexa
be.
Bliss?
I think
I mean,
Alexa
keep
might be the
teasing her
witch.
too.
Yeah, last night on Raw when they were walking down to the ring for their segment, her, Bianca, and Asuka. Real quick on the Titantron, the Bray Wyatt logo flashed, the
I
upside
know,
down moth.
and it happens all the time. And you know that wasn't a great Raw last night either. A Triple H in the last few Raws, it seems to be going downhill a little bit.
Well,
Didn't
here's
grab
the thing.
interest.
Everybody is kind of suffering from the AEW effect.
Mm.
Meaning, and we've said this on the podcast multiple times. You get this AEW effect because AEW continues to put on 5-star matches every Dynamite, right?
Mhm.
At some point, your 5-star matches are now, everybody is used to it. So now instead of them being 5-star matches, they're 2-star matches. So now, even though to new eyes, that episode of Dynamite was awesome to the people that have been watching it right along, that episode didn't really match up to previous episodes,
Yeah, we
but
wanna
it's because
talk
you're
about
used to it,
AEW. Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and that's what I think is going on with Raw, and
Yeah.
everybody's
and then
used to it.
analyze this briefly. Then we'll talk AEW, and then we got to go.
Okay.
The 24/7 title is finally gone. Nikki Cross threw it in the garbage bin last night. Barely got a kick at it left. And Theory and look at Wiz, he's laughing at all this because it's make believe. You know,
threw the
you
threw the
tried
belt
doing that,
out.
Wiz. Yeah,
Throwing the belt
tried-
out.
yeah, threw the belt. The 24/7 title was a waste, and Vince
It was a
McMahon
trash
all over
title
it.
anyway.
And Theory and the Money in the Bank. It seems like Money in the Bank is gone, and more so, Theory cashing in, and not for the world title, but for the U.S. title. Was he right with Lashley?
Yes, that is correct.
That really ended a push for Theory, don't you think?
All right, so let's break this down. Let's go back to what you started with. You started with Nikki Cross throwing the 24/7 title in the trash. I expect there to be a reemergence of that title, but it's going to be rebranded, renamed. Look for it to be a Women's Intercontinental type
Really?
title.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So
Because
that was her.
the
That was her getting
24/7 title was just a joke anyway.
right.
It really was. But what about, now get into it briefly, about Theory and the Money in the Bank is going to change. No more of that?
So here's the thing. I know a lot of people are upset about Austin Theory cashing in on Seth Rollins when there was an open challenge. Here's the thing. If Austin Theory had cashed in, had accepted the open challenge instead of cashing in, he would have had to have faced a full strength Seth Rollins. By cashing in when he did, Rollins was at maybe 40% strength, but he was still able to beat him. He cashed in for a mid-card title, not really that big of a deal. He teased earlier in the year, in his reign, about cashing in for the NXT heavyweight title. So to me, that's one or the other.
There's
one
a
and the
lot
same,
of
sorry.
suspense. There's a lot of suspense going into the Survivor Series in a few weeks. That's
Yes,
the
you
last
have-
major big event for WWE going into the new year. So a lot of suspense to start setting up the WrestleMania for April. AEW quickly, they're getting ready for Full Gear, the next pay-per-view in New Jersey in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Prudential Center, I'm going to be there. And there it is, John Moxley, MJF. MJF should return on Dynamite tomorrow night. Have you heard that?
I have. I have also heard that in MJF news, he will be making his major motion picture debut in the Iron Claw movie by A24
yeah.
Productions. I don't know what role he's going to be playing, but they did make the announcement that he will be making his film debut.
Is he officially a baby face now? You know, Wiz, what a baby face is?
I know what a
Wiz?
baby face is.
What is it? It's not you. What is it?
Well, overall, it's like the cute face. Overall, you look like a kid.
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the actual term, baby face, yes,
Yeah,
but in
yeah,
the
in
wrestling
pro
term,
wrestling,
not so.
No,
What is the
then
baby face?
I'm off.
He's the
Oh,
good guy.
okay.
The baby face is
Ray,
the good guy.
Ray, we got to get the Wiz to keep it in the ring with pro wrestling. He's got to know the terms. There's no face.
Absolutely. Listen, next time we
Is
do
he
a
the
watch
good
along,
guy?
Wiz, you're invited.
Is
There we
MJF
go.
now the crowd favorite, just like Rollins seems to be now? And again, Lashley now is the heel again. That's the bad guy, Wiz. Let me educate you. You didn't know. Is Rollins is the good guy now, but is MJF the good guy, the baby face officially now in AEW? And what's the latest on the turmoil? Young Bucks coming back, I hear, if I'm not mistaken. Young Bucks coming back, as well as Kenny Omega, right?
That is what I hear. I hear that they should be. You look for to see them within the next couple weeks. Probably, if they really wanted to solidify a big, huge pop in ratings, re-debuting back at Full Gear. They will probably be feuding. I believe they will be feuding with Death Triangle for the Trios titles. That makes sense, as they were stripped of the Trios titles after the brawl out at All Out.
What's the highlight tomorrow night on Dynamite on TBS for AEW, and SmackDown Live coming this Friday for WWE on Fox?
Well, for SmackDown, it has to be the Bray Wyatt. I believe Bray Wyatt is going to be on SmackDown. Plus, you still have the fallout from Crown Jewel. I believe you're going to have another. You're going to have an undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship match between the Usos and the New Day on Friday for the championships. And if the Usos win, they do become the longest reigning tag team champions, as well as the undisputed tag team champions. And of course, on Wednesday at Dynamite, you will see MJF after his horrific beatdown by the Firm, which I believe is all planned for him to gain the sympathy of the fans. And then at Full Gear, you're just going to see him be so disgusting and filthy that he is going to go back to being the heel, because the crowd is going to be so far behind him after this.
I'll be there.
He's just going to do whatever he can to spit in the fans' faces, and I love it.
Oh, also leading to WWE, as I let you go, Ray, and Roman Reigns, when does he lose the titles? Does he hold us to WrestleMania and The Rock comes in, or is it John Cena now? They talk about John Cena coming in for a match.
I don't want any part-timer stripping Roman Reigns of this championship reign. It doesn't make sense. It's not a good creative decision.
Cody Rhodes, is that going to be it? Cody Rhodes?
I feel Cody is the predictable answer. I'm going to tell you my theory. My theory is either main event Jey Uso or Sami Zayn. Those are one of those two have to be the ones to end the reign.
Interesting, Ray. Great insights as well. You love pro wrestling as much as I do, and we got to get the Wiz more involved with that as we keep it in the ring here every Tuesday on Lawrence Rich Live on the SLB Network. Ray, where do they see you again? How do they reach you?
They can reach me on Twitter at SpeedCause, and they can catch me and Kevin Wilson Fridays at 8 p.m. on Off the Top Rope. We will be there.
I'd
we
like to
will
come
be
on with you and talk
wrestling.
I'd like to come on and talk some old school wrestling with you whenever you want, when I'm ready, now that the baseball season's over. So
absolutely,
we'll talk, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I've been watching old Survivor Series, so I'm up to the fourth one.
Oh, okay.
So that would be 91, I believe.
You hear that, Wiz? Maybe you got to do the same thing.
Start from the jump.
That's it. Right. Ray, thank you, my friend. Keep it in the ring, and we'll see you next week, okay?
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
It's always great having Ray on for the wrestling segment, helping me out with Keep It in the Ring. And Wiz, I'm telling you, I haven't seen much of you the last couple of weeks, but I'll see you Thursday, and I got to start schooling you on pro wrestling. Simple as that. Babyface, heel. Look it up and you'll see. All right, now we'll go into your element, into this our next segment on the program, Sports Grid Live, SLG Network, and also Rich Mancuso on my YouTube channel, all the platforms. We keep it in the ring. Now we go in the NBA and the NFL, and we're going to do this as quick as we can because with this time of year, everything's happening at the same time. It's crazy.
I know. Everything. Every night you got something. Honestly, this is the first night where it's just hockey. So
I know, but there's always a lot of news.
yeah,
And there's always a lot of news coming out of the NFL and the NBA about something as well. And now you got baseball free agency and all that movement. So it's just constant. It doesn't stop. So let's go to NBA and let's look at last night because it was NBA Monday. And all the games were going on last night. And look at I didn't want to touch on it, but all 30 teams played. I don't want to, that's what we had last night if you watched. And if you're an NBA fan, you had your bonanza. All right. But if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan and an NBA fan overall, you didn't like with Kyle Irving, that whole situation. Again, why don't the Nets just dump him? Why don't they just get rid of this troubled guy?
There's so much backup, and honestly, that was their foundation, Durant and Irving. So them getting rid of him, you're getting rid of Durant also. But to start off, just the anti-Semitic stuff, the messages, that's a total no-no. We're totally against that. And for him to be posting it on his Twitter and for him not to say that he's promoting it, it's his platform. That's the key. That's the biggest thing. So it's just a huge mess in Brooklyn. And this isn't on the court, nothing on the court. And they're losing basketball games to begin with.
Last year, coach was fired, Steve Nash. Last year with the COVID situation. Now this. And I always said those three, even Harden last year, who's injured, by the way, as well with the Sixers, they never get together. And that's brought them three of those guys in last year. Now you even got Simmons there, too. And they can't all be three on the court at the same time. And that's a mess. They're just so dysfunctional. I had enough of it. I had enough of listening to it.
He's currently serving a 5-game suspension, and since you brought up Harden, just coincidentally, Harden's last game as a net, he had 4 points. Kyrie's maybe last game as a net, because everything going down right now, he scored 4 points last Tuesday. So look out for that.
And now there are conditions that have to be met before Irving gets back on the court. And I don't know if he's going to do them all, but he's agreed to. I think he said he would, but I don't know much more than that. I'm not in the loop on that. Maybe we'll get our NBA people on it next week. Wiz, New York on the other side of these Knicks, you can't figure them out. It's very tough. I think Obi Toppin has to play more for them. Give them some more time, the big guy. And he did last night. I think he scored 15 or 17 last night. But it's Jalen Brunson. They brought him in, but I don't know what's going on there with him. Is he fitting in right with the Knicks right now?
I think he's fitting in right. It's just an early start. And to begin, the last 6 games, they're 2-4. A lot of offensive performance you see out the gate, but their defense, that's the biggest struggle. On offense, they're 115 points per game. That's 10th in the NBA. But defense, going back to it, a lot, not forcing steals, not getting the ball, a lot of missed assignments, miscommunication, and just it's 10 games in, so you can't get too much into it. But against 500 and above teams, they're 0-5. Against sub 500 teams, they're 5-0.
So Wiz, the Bucks are 7-1, off to a great start, and the Lakers continue to struggle, but it looks like LeBron is getting his share of opportunities and scoring some points. The Bucks, though, the 7-1 start. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the Bucks and Giannis. That's where we got to start with. Giannis is leading the way. MVP campaign once again. Chris Middleton's still going through the injury, so it's the Giannis army in Milwaukee, and that might be the way going into June.
All right, that's it for the NBA wrap right now. We'll get more of it next week. The season's still in its infancy stages. Can't make it out yet what this is going on, that's going on. Except I know the Phoenix Suns, I don't know where they're headed. I don't know. They lost one of their key players today, right? For about 6-7 weeks, right?
Yeah, I believe it was Cam Johnson.
Yeah, out with the knee. I think he his knee again, the other knee.
Mm.
They're just like the Cardinals that we're going to talk about now in football. Oh, that's right. I can't be a fan and I can't root. Because my teams, and they're my teams. The teams I root for don't win. They always have. All right. NFL, let's get our attention to week 9 just completed. And Wiz, let's briefly go through it. I'll give my brief synopsis and then we'll analyze some things. Week 9, 10 games decided by a field goal or less to show you what's going on. There's so much. This weekend, NFL, I was situated with the red zone. I'm hooked on it now. I never was like I am, and it's just one thing going on after another. The of storylines, terrific football. Of course, the Jets defense dominating is putting them on top with best wins in the AFC, and their fans are ecstatic. The Eagles remain undefeated. The Bears, as they are Josh Fields running the ball. The team runs. Fields becoming that running type of quarterback. The Bears score points. I know you love that. The Vikings 7-1, best start since 2019. A surprise to me, but Cousins doing a job at quarterback. And then you got Josh Burrows, and you have the Cincinnati Bengals, and you have a guy named Mixon who scored 5 touchdowns. The Bengals scoring a lot of points. It's wild in the NBA right now, Wiz. Well, let's look at the Jets defense and what an impact that's got with Sauce Gardner, their draft pick, and the Jets defense is the story here. Not Daniel, not
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. I'm just there's so much going.
No,
on.
the story of the Jets. The story of the Jets is Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. They've been a freaking tangent on defense. Those corners, they stack up as the best defense in the league right now, just in the secondary. And Jets are 6-3. Entering the season, their over/under on wins was 5.5. Congrats, Jets fans out there. Enjoy the bye week, but 17 points allowed or less. 17 points allowed or less in the last 2 of 3 games.
You know what? That
Speaking on
shocked
the
me. I did not expect the Jets to beat the Bills. Now we'll see what type of a team they're going to be coming out of the bye with the Patriots again on tap. Is that who they got next after the bye? Patriots again?
They get New England.
Let's see how good they are, and let's see if they finally can beat the Patriots up there in Foxborough. All right, because what we're seeing from the Jets is unexpected. It's a story, one of the big stories of the NFL in the first half, the defense and what's been going on there. Let's see what they can do coming out of the bye week. Kyle Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, the Cardinals, they lose again. And what's going on here with them?
Arguably, that's the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league, but not on Sunday. 5 targets this past Sunday for 36 yards. If you're DeAndre Hopkins with that type of talent, you're going to be mad. You got to be getting the ball more than that. And the Cardinals struggling on offense, you got to give your best guy the ball. He has 3 games played, 26 receptions, but just like that, 5 targets out of your best guy.
I don't know if it's the coaching there in Arizona and Glendale where they are in the desert. I don't know if it's Murray just not being Murray the way he should be. I don't know if it's the lack of this, lack of that, but they seem to be such a team that just you talk about dysfunctional. I don't think it's dysfunctional. They just can't get it together, which means to me it's the coaching. And maybe there's got to be a change here again. I don't know.
I think so too with Kingsbury, because Kingsbury.
Look at the Bengals. What do you make of Wiz? What do you make of Burrow and the Bengals and Nixon 5 touchdowns, 40 points? These Bengals scored a lot of points, and Nixon with 5 touchdowns, and the Bengals and how Burrow's is showing what he did getting them to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, he had. Speaking on Joe Mixon, he had 3 touchdowns going into the day and ended it with 8 for the season. That's just incredible. 3 of the last 4 games, the Bengals have 40 points scored. So just like that, they're getting it going on offense, and you're seeing it like we did this past January with Burrow. 5-4 going into the bye.
Now, we also have to look at the continuing decline of Aaron Rodgers. And 2 interceptions in the red zone. That hasn't happened to him in how long?
I don't even know.
It's time for the Packers to make a change and for Aaron Rodgers to say, enough, I've had it. The Packers are a downward team in a real big spiral. They haven't lost, how many? Lost 4 in a row, right?
I believe so. And every time
Yeah.
we come on this show, we say this is the week the Packers get right. And 4 straight weeks now.
He doesn't look like himself. But then Tom Brady
5 in a
had
row.
his, and then Tom Brady comes back. We go almost counting him out, and here he goes. The late game comeback guy. And here you're thinking that, enough for Brady, but he looked like Brady again on Sunday.
Yeah, he looked like Brady, especially in the fourth quarter. Another game-winning drive just added to the record books. But we saw it throughout this game, struggling on offense, and that's the Buccaneers' story this season.
All right, where's the Colts get rid of their coach, Frank Reich, and they bring in an assistant named Jeff Saturday, who coaches team on Sunday. No pun there intended, of course. Frank Reich out. Colts been a disappointment. One coaching change in the box that happened today. And then you get this. The Giants off their bye week. Another surprise team with their defense and the offense has been going. But their safety, Xavier McKinney and Capo during the break, during the bye week, and a stupid injury to his hand. What did he do? He's big part of the Giants' defense is out for the next 3, maybe 4 games. That can impact them because their schedule now going in the conference, Cowboys, Eagles again. That's tough. Tough loss.
No, this is a tough blow, big time. McKinney's been playing great this season, and the defense as a whole is playing great this whole season. And every team, every coach across the NFL says the same thing going into the bye week. Guys, don't screw up. Come back healthy. All that.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. And we'll get back to the NFL picks with Avery, and we come back after we do this. Because I want you to hold that thought, because this might be a part of Nobody Beats the Wiz. Another great part of this program every week on Sports with Rich on the SLG Network. Like, comment, and subscribe. Here we go, Avery. Put it up. Nobody Beats the Wiz. Yes or no? I get the questions to the Wiz. He gives just a brief answer. Got a lot of them tonight. Here he is, the line in the middle. Let's get to Nobody Beats the Wiz. You know how it goes. All right, Wiz, here you go. You ready?
Yeah, I'm all ready.
Halfway point of the NFL season, the 7-1 Vikings, undefeated Eagles, Giants, Jets, Josh Fields. What do you think of that? Yes or no? Do you like that?
Yeah, you gotta like that. That's the parity in the NFL. Justin Fields, he's struggling out the gate. He's becoming his own. Jets, Giants, if you told me this situation coming into the season, I wouldn't believe you. And Mahomes, Josh Allen leading the way in MVP talks. Jalen Hurts, same way. Eagles, man. The city of Philadelphia has a lot to ride on right now.
Yeah, first time city of Philadelphia. 2 teams vying for a championship on the same day, the Union and the MLS. We'll talk about that later when we wrap up. And, of course, the Phillies. That's never happened before. 2 teams in the same city, same day, vying for a championship, both lost. I guess or no, Wiz, you talk about the bye week. I basically don't like that. Teams want it, 17-game schedule, because of a chance to rest up. But then there's adventures that go on the bye week. We saw that with McKinley and the Giants. Do you like the bye week, especially if you're a fan of a team that has momentum going in? And do they have the momentum coming out?
Yeah, I like the bye week. It's definitely necessary with the longevity of a 17-game season. So it's definitely necessary. But like you said, you see these risks happen. And it just comes down to the organizations, different franchises running it. And I feel like every year we see these type of injuries. And
I'm not a fan of the bye week. It seems like you are. Okay, yes or no? Nobody Beats the Wiz continues. Is it fair to say, Wiz, briefly, the Astros are a dynasty, 6 straight ALCS titles, and go to the World Series and win it. Second time in franchise history.
I think they're a dynasty because you look at all those seasons from 2017 on. 4 of the last 5 full seasons, eliminate that COVID year, they had 100+ wins. So as much as you want to talk about the postseason success, they do it in the regular season also. Obviously, October is important, but they're not just getting hot in October. They're winning in April till September.
And they got a young, as we discussed earlier, great team. Well, a lot of depth. They got everything. They could be a dynasty. I think they are on their way there if they're not already. Yes or no, nobody beats the Wiz. Major League Baseball Awards Week coming up. Starting Monday, MVP, Manager of the Year, Cy Young, so forth. What's your thoughts briefly? Verlander, AL Cy Young Award winner, yes or no?
Yeah, I got Verlander for the AL Cy Young. I think he was the best pitcher across the American League for the full season. Dylan Cease.
May not coming back as an Astro. He declared free agency. Okay, how about Alcantara? I know you love him. Alcantara of the Marlins.
I think it would be a close race. I think Alcantara is going to win it, but Urias a strong second.
I'm just going to talk about now one of the hotly contested ones I think here, and it's the manager. The National League Manager of the Year, Showalter, Mets.
I think it's a given. It's Buck Showalter for sure. Yeah.
Really? I don't think so. I think Snicker of the Braves, what he did to get them back. I don't know about that. My vote, when I don't get a vote, would go with Snicker of the Braves. And Dusty Baker, without a doubt, Astros.
It's going to be tough. I would say Francona. Yeah, with Cleveland.
That organization, Executive of the Year today. Their GM or president is Executive of the Year. Yeah. For the Indians, what they did. All right.
Chris Antonetti.
Yeah. MLS, let's talk soccer. We're going to talk about it later when we come back from the break with football. We're running late. Championship Cup penalty kick. That's how it was decided. LA over the Union, Philadelphia. Do you like the penalty kick to decide championship in the MLS and soccer overall? Yes or no?
Oh, I love that. It's like the drastic deadline. You got to get to it. Honestly, there's so much anticipation.
Well, why not just go into straight overtime? That's what I'd like to see. And then whoever hits the goal hits the goal. Or give a team the other chance. I don't like that. I don't like the penalty kick to decide the championship. I don't go for that.
It's kind of like Golden Boot if you do it the way you're saying.
All right, nobody beats the Wiz. Next, yes or no? Next year, National League East, Phillies, Mets, Braves.
Ooh, it's gonna be a tough one. Right now, with everything going on, the Braves are the best team, so I'm gonna go with Atlanta.
Okay. Well, again, as the complexion of teams will change in the next few weeks with free agency signings and trades. As pitchers and catchers, 97 days away, Kenneth.
I know.
It's hard to believe. All right, Liz, here we go. I love throwing this stuff at you. Yes or no? We're out of baseball, now we transition into the winter sports. We talk baseball, we don't report it, but we transition. Baseball, the short off season. What do you focus more on now? Knowing you, it's everything. But NFL, NBA, World Cup coming up, boxing.
For me, it's NFL first and foremost, and then NBA to go with that. And then once college basketball starts up, I'm going to be zoned in on Fordham.
Yeah, I was there last night. Talk about that later. All right, Wiz, got you here. We wrap up Nobody Beats the Wiz with his favorite. You have a way of writing now where you use transitional words really well. And I know where you got that from. Come on, say it.
I got it from you.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite one? And when you talk, I've heard you say it even in your talk. Is it regardless, nevertheless?
I don't know. I would say regardless.
or what else?
Nonetheless,
yes or no? Which one is your favorite? Yes or no? Regardless or nevertheless?
Nevertheless.
Yeah, that's it. Nevertheless, Nobody Beats the Wiz. Yes or no is over for the week. Put it up, baby. We close it. Put the lion up. We're in the end of the music. Thank you, Wiz. You're always a good sport with that. Great opinions as well. We do Nobody Beats the Wiz again next week. Nevertheless, I will say this. The Wiz and Avery up next here on Sports Grid live on the SLG Network, YouTube, Rich Mancuso, my channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. Wiz and Avery are going to briefly run down and give their picks for week number 10 coming up in the NFL that starts again Thursday night. Can't believe it's week 10. So I'll be back after that on the other side, wrap it up with odds and ends and some other good stuff. But for now, take a brief break and back with the Wiz and Avery as they give their picks for NFL week 10 because they do it better than me, regardless. Back after this.
Spending money like it's nothing. I don't have a budget. Please don't get offended when you see the kids stunting. Got my queens with me, but it ain't no Scarborough bluffing. See, I'm riding solo while dependent bitches cuffing. I got all I need, me, myself, and I just love it. I've been gone, riches stacking to the ceiling. I'm dick long. Could never change the side I've been on. In 100 years, I'ma still be with my day ones. When it's said and done, fuck where I'm going, it's all about where I came from. You don't know.
Back with Sports with Rich, just about 10 o'clock Tuesday night, as always on the SLG Network. We're about to start off week 10. I can't believe it's week 10, Avery.
I know, dude.
It's incredible. We're at the halfway point just like that, and the seedings are lining up. I'm looking at the playoff projections. To start off, we got Thursday night football, Atlanta Falcons at Carolina Panthers. Right now, Falcons open up as a -2.5 favorite, and the total's at 43.5. I'm just going to start off. I like the Falcons and Mariota the way they're going right now because the Panthers, I don't know who the quarterback is under the Baker Mayfield impression.
Yeah, I like the Falcons going right now. The quarterback is PJ Walker. He was the XFL MVP last year. Fun fact for that league. But no, I like the Falcons at that -2.5. They get their most likely all-pro running back back in Cordero Patterson. He's back. He had a big game last week. I think against this defense, he's gonna have another big week.
Cordell Patterson had two touchdowns last Sunday, just
2
like
touchdowns, and he bowled over some dude for one too.
A highlight reel every Sunday. Next game up, I believe it's in Germany, Sunday morning. So set your alarms early. Seahawks, Tampa Bay. The spread right now is Buccaneers -2.5, and the total is at 44.5. I like the way the Buccaneers ended that fourth quarter, the game-winning drive. Obviously, you can go with Geno and the Seahawks. Both teams are playing well out the gate, but I'm going to go with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and you never know what's going to happen in Germany, so I'm going with Tom Brady.
See, I'm actually going to fight you on this one. I like the way Geno and the Seahawks are playing. I think the Seahawks just have a more coerced team right now. I think they're playing a lot better and more consistent than what the Buccaneers are. And I think it was either this week or last week they just lost Shaq Mason to the season for an ACL, that right tackle, watching Tom's blind side. So
it seems like every week they're dealing with another offensive line issue. And speaking of injuries, the biggest one of them all this week, we have Vikings at Bills. Quarterback Josh Allen is dealing with a UCL injury right now. We don't know the details on it. And the betting line is jumping back and forth. So let me just get that out in the front. Bills right now, I believe it was -7, and the total is 46.5. And right now, I'm going to go with the Vikings. Kirk Cousins playing well, rocking with the chains on the
absolutely.
You got to go with the Vikings. As much as I'm a Bears fan, the Vikings are riding high right now. I'm going to go with them money line. Yeah, I would go with them money line for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you and I were both NFC North competitors. We hate to see the Vikings doing well, but it's hard to bet against them right now. That offense is clicking. They just traded for TJ Hawkinson, who had he had a big day on Sunday with only 4 days or whatever it was at the Vikings facility. He had like 7 catches for 70 some odd yards. It was a big day for him. Yeah, I do like the total at 46. I think that over is going to hit very easily.
Yeah, no, I agree with that also because I think a lot of bettors out there are going to bet the under, speculating on Allen's injury. So I agree with that.
Yeah, even if Allen does get injured, the starter will then be Case Keenum, and we all know what he's capable of doing.
That would be a hell of a matchup, Case Keenum versus Cousins. Next matchup, we got Houston Texans versus New York Giants. Giants are -6.5 favorite right now. And Xavier McKinney injury, that's big, coming off the bye. The total is set at 40 right now, over under. I'm going to go with the Giants money line. I don't like the spread being that high, -6.5. And one of these days, the Texans are going to put up a fight. So I'm going to go Giants money line instead of the spread.
Yeah, I like Giants money line as well. So far, the Texans have yet to pick up that second win. They have that tie with Indy. That's about as close as they can get right now. But yeah, I think this is pretty easy. This is Giants money line all week.
Both agreement on that. This is a tough matchup for you. You don't want to talk about it. Cowboys at Packers. Right now, Packers are a 5-point favorite. Total is set at 43. I expect that to go up throughout the week, but right now my pick is Dallas money line. I don't think that spread. I think the spread is sketchy right now, -5. But I'm going to go Cowboys, Dak Prescott, CD Lamb connection at Lambeau. I could see it.
Yeah, I don't really know what Vegas is doing. I don't know how we're still afraid. I get it, 3 points at home. So you take that away, it's still a -2. The Packers are on a 5-game losing streak.
When's the last time that happened?
I think they're probably 0-9 against the spread this year. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. This is a pretty easy Dallas +5, especially with Micah Parsons playing as well as he is. Our offense just isn't going to cut it.
So Dallas all the way on that one.
Yup.
Another 4:30 slate, Cardinals at Rams. Rams open up -3.5-point favorite with a total set at 43.5. Kyler Murray versus Matthew Stafford, rematch of the NFC wildcard game from last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the same result we saw from last year. Rams all the way, -3.5. If it goes up to 5, 6, I'm still taking Rams spread.
See, I think I'm avoiding spreads and money lines altogether here. I'm just going to take the under. I'm going to take the under 43. We saw the Rams only put up, I believe it was 13 or 15 last week against the Bucks. Pretty poor game for them, and the Cardinals haven't been clicking well on offense lately either. I think with the exception of the Minnesota game where they scored 35.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're right. And offense isn't clicking, and what we saw out of Murray and Hopkins last week, I don't expect it to get any better.
Precisely.
This is actually the Sunday night game. Chargers at Niners. Niners open up as a 7-point favorite with a total 46.5. Jimmy G versus Justin Herbert. It's a good quarterback matchup, but a lot of stars on both sides.
Absolutely.
With obviously Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, but I'm going to go Chargers here, and I'd like Chargers money line, but I'm leaning towards the total of being in the over 46.5.
Yeah, I was just about to touch on that as well. I mean, you see a bunch of powerhouses. Eckler is RB1 in fantasy right now, and Herbert's doing a good job of getting him the ball. Herbert's finding a new favorite target in Joshua Palmer, but they still have that deep threat in Mike Williams. I mean, he's a bad man, mama.
Monday Night Football, Commanders at Eagles. Nice NFC East matchup right there. Eagles are -11 right now. It's going to get higher, I believe. Total's 44.5, but -11. You guys know the way I feel about double-digit spreads. I'm going to avoid the spread to begin with. -11 too much. Just honestly, the over at 44. Monday Night Football, primetime, give me a lot of points.
Yeah, see, this might be my two-legger of the week. I'd probably take the over and Commanders +11. We saw them give Minnesota a hard time last week. It took Minnesota the last 2 minutes and a field goal to beat them. I think it was 2017 was the final. So the Eagles are good. But the Commanders, their defense is getting better, and they get Chase Young back this week.
That's a big return for Chase Young. The defense has been waiting for his return ever since that injury last season.
Absolutely.
Big storyline that we just found out about yesterday, Frank Reich getting fired. We talked about that. Jeff Saturday getting hired. And there's more drama leading up to Sunday because just 2 weeks ago, with Colts Raiders coming up, we have Jeff Saturday tweeting 2 weeks ago, Raiders are horrible. Just like that, tweeting it. Now he's the head coach of the Colts versus the Raiders this week. That's what the NFL brings you every week, storyline on storyline. But let me get to it. Colts at Raiders, -6 right now for the Raiders. Total's 42.5. I'm going to go with Raiders all the way, -6, -8. I'm not double digits, but -9 will be my limit.
Yeah, I don't like what the Colts are doing. I don't think an interim head coach is going to change much. The Raiders are probably the best 2-6 team that has blessed the NFL in the recent years with that star-studded lineup. I don't know how this team is doing this terribly, but you never know. Maybe the Colts pull something out. But I'd like the Raiders to win. I think this is it'll be an interesting game for sure.
Oh, it's going to be interesting no matter what, either side. Favorite game of the day for me, got to rep my Bears right here. Lions at Bears. Bears open up my 3-point favorite right now. Justin Fields looking like the Justin Fields from Ohio State. Dogging on the ground, passing here and there. Passing game will develop with year on year, I hope. Total is 48.5. Lions score a lot of points. Obviously, I'm going Bears money line, but give me the total at 48.5. Get the over for sure.
48.5 is a lot. That's a lot of points. I'm not so sure about that.
I'm riding high on Justin Fields and the Lions offense giving me a lot of points because the Bears defense, abysmal.
That's very true. That's very true. You might be right. Maybe 48.5 to play.
What are you thinking?
I'm actually really going to enjoy watching the Minnesota Vikings Bills game. I think I wish this game would have got flexed to one of the afternoon slots or even the Sunday night slot. I feel like this is a game a lot of people are going to want to tune in because it's essentially, the Vikings are only undefeated because they lost to the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And the Bills are coming off a tough loss against New York. They're going to be hungry. If Josh Allen plays or not, I think this game is going to be really interesting. And that they should flip Packers, Cowboys, and put them to noon and put the Vikings at the 3:30 slot.
NFL schedule makers, just hire one of us already.
Hire us already.
But that's our game picks for this week. Justin Jefferson scored a touchdown for sure. I got that against the Bills.
I don't know. He's only got like 2 or 3 so far this season.
I know. I keep riding that bet, but I'm gonna give it one more week. Justin Jefferson has scored a touchdown, and Cordell Patterson from last week, the same Patterson from this week. I think he scores a touchdown.
Yeah, Patterson anytime is definitely a lock, but I think probably Jefferson yards prop is probably a lock as well, whatever that is. He's averaging almost 100 yards a game.
Sheesh.
And those are Randy Moss numbers. I mean, come on, man.
So I saw the catch in there. Come on, man. Well, that's it for our game picks this week. Week 10 is going to be packed starting Thursday night with Falcons Panthers, closing up Monday night with Commanders Eagles, and we'll get back to sports with Rich Mancuso coming back on the other side. Avery, Robert Rizzo here. Talk to you guys soon.
What's good, everybody? My name is Caleb from the Bayou City Boys over here on the SLG Network. Happy to announce that we are now working with Dano's Seasoning. So if you're anything like me, you meal prep all the time, Dano's is the way to go, man. They got multiple flavors. Hit them up. Be sure to use our code SLG Network. Appreciate every single one of y'all. Peace.
Spending money like it's nothing. I don't have a budget. Please don't get offended when you see the kids stunting. Got my queens with me, but it ain't no Scarborough bluffing. See, I'm riding solo, well dependent bitches cuffing. I got all I need, me, myself, and I just love it. I've been gone.
Well, Wiz, thank you and Avery once again. Great job with the picks. That's going great, that segment. I'm out of the picture with that. Did you guys know that stuff better than me, who to pick, who to not pick? It gives me time also on election night 2022 to look at the results because, people know that I'm an election aficionado. I love election night. I could stay up all hours till I get the final returns in key races as well. I wanted to be a
Well-
politician at one time before I became this old rundown sports journalist. Did you know that?
I know that. You told me that, and I think
Yeah.
you'd be a great politician.
Yeah,
But I
well,
want to thank you for the compliment about me and Avery. We're adjusting week by week.
Good
and we're
job.
loving it.
Now, how did you pick the Cardinals again, real quick?
I don't think neither of us picked the Cardinals. We picked.
I wouldn't pick them
we
either.
all picked the Rams. We both picked the Rams.
I wouldn't pick them either. And your Bears that are playing great football right now, scoring points with Justin Fields.
Just money line every day, money line
Yeah.
every Sunday. You
I
bet
guess
it.
that's how you
toss
do it. Our good buddy Josh here in New York, who loves this stuff, always picks your ear or gets your. He wants to know, because he's into this stuff. Right? Anyway, Sports with Rich, live SLG Network every Tuesday night live, 8 to 10 p.m. or more. We always go after 10. Thanks to the great people behind the scenes of the SLJ Network, including Avery, our great producer. Again, picks, see how you do this week. But we have a lot more to do, odds and ends, before we close the chapter tonight. And this just came through. I don't know if you saw this, an NFL note. Interesting. NFL data shows recent injury rates, according to the ESPN report. Recent injury rates are the same on grass, artificial turf amid calls for the league to convert all surfaces to grass. That's interesting. We're going to check more into that.
No, that's interesting for sure. But I feel like we see a lot of the severe injuries on the turf compared to the grass. It doesn't have the right texture for the cleats.
Or injuries when NFL players go on a bye week and decide to do whatever the hell they want to do.
That's true.
That isn't in their contract. And the Giants are suffering with a kindling now. That on defense. How did you pick the Giants for this week?
I picked the Giants. Spread right now is -6 against the Texans, but I like the money line. I don't like the -6.
Because that could change as you get close to the game time. It's only Tuesday night. All right, let's go to the college football season. It's coming to a climax, and the latest college football poll, top of the sports college playoff top 25. Now Georgia, the defending champion, number 1, Michigan 2, and then number 3 was. Michigan 2, 3 was, let's see, TCU was 4th.
Yeah.
So an interesting development. Ohio State is number 2, right? Ohio State.
Yeah.
In fact, Georgia, going to that Georgia game on Saturday with Stetson Bennett, and that game, and what Georgia is number 1 again, and the defending champ. They could be on their way to again with Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, the quarterback Stetson Bennett leading the way for the Georgia Bulldogs. We've seen it last year. They defeated Tennessee, big matchup, 1 versus 3. And as you mentioned, the order: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. TCU is a big shocker. No one had them in the top 4 to begin the season. That's big progress for them. But going back to Bennett and the Bulldogs, Bennett, 257 passing yards on Saturday, 2 touchdowns. On the season, obviously, you expect more touchdowns to begin with, but 17 total touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He's very smart and accurate with the ball.
And LSU defeated Alabama. That was another one weekend. And the key here, it was Stenson. They stopped Heisman favorite Hendon. Was it Hawker? What's his name?
Bryce Young, the quarterback for Bama?
No, I'm talking about I'm confusing. Is it the Georgia game and Stetson and Georgia? They stopped. Who's the Heisman favorite right now? I am so confused. I there's so much going on, and especially at the beginning of college basketball. Who's the Heisman favorite?
C.J. Stroud for Ohio State.
But they stopped. Didn't Georgia stop one of the Heisman favorites in that game? No, Tennessee, their quarterback.
Yeah, it was. I'm blanking on the name, but overall, he didn't have a good day because I believe Tennessee only scored 14.
He was stopped.
Big time.
Hendon, I can't even read my notes. I should know off the top of my head, but this with boxing going on the weekend too. I'm just so endowed out. But anyway, that's the latest. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. They're the top four. Will that hold again as we come into the climax of the college top four for the playoff? They're expanding that next year, I believe. It's going to go to more. They're trying to make that more to bigger, but it'll never be like the NCAA basketball tournament. We're going to talk NCAA in a moment. So much going on. And we're going to look at the MLS Cup, the championship. NYCFC, of course, 2 weeks ago, was a week ago, they're eliminated. But how about LA and their fans and the Union did a great job in Philadelphia? And the penalty kick, as we discussed, nobody beats a whiz. I don't like that. But that's how they won it. LA won it. A close matchup, won 3-3. The penalty kick decided it, which I don't like. But congratulations to LA, the new MLS Cup champs. NYCFC is going to be something in New York. There's going to be changes there a little bit. Do they keep the interim coach and make him the regular head coach, Nick Cushing? And a lot of these guys out of the NYCFC, out of the MLS now, they're going to get ready for this. Some of them, including Sean Johnson, the keeper for NYCFC, the best in the league by many. The World Cup is upon us next week.
Oof.
Great time to be a soccer fan. The FIFA World Cup. And that starts in a couple of days. A lot of these matchups on Fox Sports. And, I don't know, USA is favored here, but, look at Mexico again and Brazil and Argentina, some of the powerhouses. Do you have a favorite in the World Cup?
Yeah, I have a favorite right now. It's Argentina. The event starts November 20th. I believe the championship is December 18th. But just here's a little takeaway. EA Sports, maker of Madden, the video game, EA Sports predicted Argentina to win this World Cup for 2022. They correctly picked the winner of the 2010 World Cup, the 2014 World Cup, and 2018. So maybe they got something going here.
They
picked
do.
Argentina.
And a lot of Argentinians play in the MLS, including Nick Castellanos, who was there for NYCFC, their top scorer. So I mean, it is Argentina is a great soccer. That's soccer country. So yeah, they could be the favorites. The World Cup upon us, and the New York City Marathon. We got to touch that. Back to normal. 50,000 runners on Sunday, and that's why you couldn't get around New York City, traffic block and all that.
Ooh.
Always annoying, and I'll never understand why these people that in 75-degree weather are running 26 miles, and you see these people limping it to the end. I'm not knocking their courageousness; they have it, but they're falling down. They can hardly walk to the finish line at midnight Sunday. The race started like 9 a.m. But they had to do it. It's an accomplishment to go. Maybe because I've never done it and can't do it, never would do it. But I just don't see it. But they just do it because they love the event, the accomplishment. But there was another great event.
It's that self-accomplishment, like that self-fulfillment. Like, yo, I just ran 26 miles. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. And you get to see New York City too.
Me, you won't see me doing that. I can't do any type
I
of
could never do it. Even when I was in better shape, I would have never done that. But congratulations to all the runners and those who passed the finish line. I'm not going to fault them for that, for their courageousness, and get encouraged by all the New Yorkers along the race course. All right. College basketball's here. Last night we had a whole plethora of games to begin the season. Houston looks like they're going to be good as a favorite. They won. Gonzaga won. They're always in there. North Carolina, Villanova won. The new coach, Kyle Neptune, who was the assistant, was a head coach at Fordham University here in the Bronx in New York last year. Duke with a new coach. They won. Kentucky, they won again. The opener. Houston looks like they're good. And North Carolina and Kansas and Bill Self as well, defending the championship. So it's here. The long marathon to the Final Four in April was, including Fordham University, looking to win the A-10 conference. I was up in Rose Hill in the Bronx last night and watched Fordham with a new coach, Ken Lugo, who worked under Kyle Neptune at Fordham last year in their first year. My column on that on NewYorkSportsDay.com right now. And Fordham looked pretty good. They shoot a lot of threes, which I don't like. I don't like that outside game like that. I don't like that. But I love college basketball better than the NBA.
It's the go-to, and honestly, it's transitioned to becoming more watched, in my opinion, than NBA. NBA, there's just too much storylines off the court, and college basketball, these kids are going for it all, full of heart, every minute of the game. It's entertaining as heck compared to NBA.
Yes, it is. Back to the baseball a little bit with some notes. Talked about the World Series and how well the ratings were so far. But you know, when it compared to previous years, it's still very low. But the World Series ratings, opposed to on the same night, the Phillies played the Astros on Fox, 12,768 fans, according to Nielsen ratings. And the Texans and Eagles, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime that you have to pay for because that's the future of the TV sports industry. 7.8 rating. They rate that. I don't know how they do it. 7.8 million, according to them, which I think could even be lower than that. I think that's what it was, 7.8. But the Phillies Astros dominated. That was the first time, I believe, that two teams in the same city were playing in the major sports because the World Series ended, started late and ended so late. First time in baseball history that happened. So, Phillies Astros ratings-wise, not as good. And you'd expected that. But MLB ratings in postseason and the World Series have been on the downtrend for a while now.
Yeah, it was on the downtrend. I believe it had better numbers than last year's World Series because Astros versus Atlanta, and you're going to get a bigger audience with Philly, that whole city. But overall, I think it was a great series, a lot of action, great pitching. We saw the offense fall asleep towards the end, but October baseball is at its finest, and first postseason covering, hell of an opportunity, hell of an experience.
Yeah.
And just thank you again, Rich, for all of what you've been doing.
Well, you'll continue to do it as my protege as I leave this industry soon. And I kind of thought about when too, and I'll let you know, and then the whole world know. So, but that's for another time. Right now, we continue with baseball. We talked about this with a little bit before Hall of Fame, steroid era, and you saw that Albert Bell, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Don Mattingly, Fred McGriff, Dale Murphy, Rafael Palmeiro, Curt Schilling, Hall of Fame Contemporary Baseball, the committee that they have, the era. These players are now eligible for election, and he's one of those guys, or more, 75% of the vote to get enshrined. And there will be that baseball winter meetings, they will announce it. And out of that group, because there's a lot of the steroid involvement guys here, including Clemens. And you look at Palmeiro, and you look at Schilling, maybe, and there's one of them, and of course the biggest one here, Barry Bonds. What do you think out of those names, Wiz? Who gets the 75% and will get voted into the Hall of Fame because they have this new committee and this new group, and these guys weren't eligible no more, so which is good, but there's steroid implicated guys here that I would never vote for.
I don't think the steroid guys are going to get in. I think Don Mattingly was on that list. I think Don Mattingly could get in.
Pete Hernandez wasn't, and that caused a stir.
Hernandez wasn't. Mattingly was. I think Mattingly deserves a shot in, finally. One of the greatest defensive first basemen the world has ever seen. But back to your point, I don't think the steroid guys are going to get in.
No. forever etched in baseball history. And if they ever did, it would be an asterisk, but I don't think they will get in. And they would never get my vote anyway if I had that opportunity to do it. And I don't, because I'm not a member of the esteemed Baseball Writers of America group. And I don't care. Frankly, I don't care. Just designated. Anyway, we have Latino Sports MVP awards. That's good. And that's one of the reasons why Latino Sports did that, because the Latino players that have a lot of goods with them and a lot of good talent, a lot of them are always involved in steroids and PFDs. But at least we get to vote for them for MVP for certain categories every year, and that's coming up soon with us at Latino Sports. Wiz, did you see this? Here we go. I come up with these things. Arizona was noted as the second most popular state when it came to the so-called sport called pickleball. What the hell is pickleball?
Pickleball. Oof. What is that's like tennis, with the wooden boards.
But what is the concept of pickleball? I've heard of it, but vaguely. I know nothing about it. And yet they're rating what states where this so-called sport has the most popularity. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Pickleball. Do they have a league commissioner? Who plays the game? Do they get paid? And how do they play it? Someone out there tell me. Like, comment, and subscribe. Comment in the cube. Let me know. And then there's this.
Avery knows. Can I come in real quick?
You could come on and stay with us because we're going to wrap it up and go with Fact of the Week anyway in a minute.
I know exactly what pickleball is.
Do they play pickleball in Wisconsin?
Yes, we do. So what pickleball is, it's what Riz said. It's a smaller version of tennis. It's two people on a team, and it's used with a ball. The ball is about yay big. So take a tennis ball and about double it. That's about how big the ball is.
Is that why they call it pickleball?
I don't know why they call it pickleball.
Have you ever played? Avery, have you ever played pickleball?
Yeah, we actually we did it in high school. During PE, we had a pickleball unit.
They would do that in Wisconsin, not in New York.
I remember pickleball here and there.
It's a combination between pickleball and badminton.
Oh, now I've heard it all. Maybe that'll be a Fact of the Week. And then there's this. There's this. A corn. What is it called? Cornhole. What is,
bags.
Cornhole. I've seen this on an off sports night late at night on ESPN. God only knows why they televise this. I have no idea. But there's a scandal in this sport because the top team is accused of illegally, what they did was it played with bean bags.
Yep.
Bean bags, right? We have an image of that, Avery. Put it up.
Yeah. So this is our guy, and this is what they throw. They're little 4x4 sacks.
What is that? A bean bag?
Yep. So they're bean bags. They're about 4x4. They're about that big. And there's a sticky side and or a more sticky side and a smooth side.
All right. So now their claim there's an allegation out there. There's a scandal going in this league, in this game. The league champions have been accused of putting too many beans in there, making them heavier, or illegal bean bags. What the hell is going on?
People out there are shot and want to win.
And what's the name of this ludicrous so-called sport? What do they call it?
Cornhole.
Yeah.
Did these guys get
bags.
paid? I mean, come on. Did these guys get
paid?
Do.
Yes, they do.
How do you know that?
Because Because it's a big thing up here in the Midwest. We play it's at every family
Again,
outing.
they play
It's at every
pickleball
graduation
and
party.
cornball,
It's at
whatever it's
every
called,
tailgate.
in the Midwest. That's what they do. Those are
Absolutely.
sports.
Yes,
I can't believe that.
you played a 21. It's cancel scoring, and it's a big deal because the board. So you throw it, and you got to land it on the board. If it's
I
on the
know,
board,
I've
it's 1
seen
point.
it. I've seen it televised on ESPN, and I could say, how do they put that on ESPN programming? Unless they just have nothing else to do or televise, they got to be getting paid if it's on ESPN. God knows why.
Yeah, I think they get paid if they win the tournaments. I think the winning team splits I think they get like 25
All right.
grand.
Wiz, your objective in the next week or so is that we have to find out more about pickleball and cornball, whatever it's called. All right.
All right, that's
And
the
then we have
agenda.
to see how we could report this stuff and maybe put one of these athletes in either sport on the program and find
Yeah.
out more about it.
That would be great. We'll find out
It'd
more
be
about
great.
it.
What am I going to ask a pickleball player? What type of question would I ask a pickleball player?
So there are different strategies to pickleball.
Is there defense?
Yes, there's defense. So you can use different techniques when hitting it back to your opponent. You can do a drop shot where you hit it. They do it in tennis. You hit it lightly over the net, or you can hit it harder at them.
I just don't understand. I mean, I don't know. I'm ranting right now.
It's just tennis, but smaller.
Do people watch this stuff? Do they attend these events? Pickleball
no.
and cornball, whatever it is?
No, cornhole probably more likely.
Cornhole.
But-
It's called cornhole.
Yes,
Cornhole. Yep.
cornhole
why
or
did they get the name?
bags.
Where did they get the name corn from? I know I'm ranting and we're running late, real late. Why did they call it corn?
I think the origin is probably something close to basketball. I'm sure the original players of the sport actually took these corn husks and tried to get them in the hole.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Avery, and you, Wiz, if you know, but I read somewhere that they actually have cornhole or cornball, whatever they call it again, on Vegas sports lines with teams. With guys. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What this world has come down to. Oh,
If it's aired on ESPN, they have to bet on it, right?
well, why would
It's
they?
spice to everything.
Well, there's a scandal going on there. There's controversy, and that you just answered the question. Maybe that's why, because they gamble on it. Whenever there is some type of wagering, online gamble, whatever it is, and it goes in the sports books, you never know. Well, yeah, that's our world anyway. We're gonna wrap this up. Let me get this fact of the week. I dropped it. You got me so nervous. I dropped my fact of the week.
I know the
All right.
fact of the week. The fake
All right,
sports
here we
line in
go.
England, 1950.
I put a line on my put my line fact of the week, not trivia. It's fact of the week. People have been getting to me. It's not a fact, it's trivia. No, it's a fact. Believe me, these are facts that I only come up with. Here we go to wrap up the program tonight. Both of you couldn't get it the first time. Try to get the bobblehead still available. Not for you guys, but both Wiz and Avery have gotten the fact of the week in the last few weeks. I don't know if you get this one. The World Cup, we're talking about it. America defeated England in 1950 World Cup 1-0. But it was reported that England won by a totally different score. That is the fact. What was that score? Both of you didn't have it right the first time. Give you another shot at it. Wiz, make some noise.
So it's not 3-0 and it's not 6-4.
No.
No, I wanted to do a high score because it's just so outlandish. But I'm gonna go like 9-2.
No, way off. This was the fake score that was put out, and everybody believed it. It was 1-0, but it was different. Avery, one more shot.
I'm gonna guess because it was based on maybe it was like a printing error back in the day. There was maybe an extra digit put on, so maybe it was like 8-0. Maybe there was something that was messed up with the printing press and how the ink went on. Maybe like 8-0.
And no, I didn't need your history or documentary, Avery. Though, you weren't close either. Neither one of you. So think about it. 1-0. If you said it was a printing error, if this was 1950 where you had newspapers and it came out Telegraph or whatever, this was chronicled as the greatest World Cup championship game where America defeated England 1-0 in 1950. Yet the score that they put out was wrong, and it was 10-1. That's what they put out wrong.
10-1.
And that's my fact of the week this week. Crazy as it is. Nobody got it again tonight. You're always welcome to get it.
8-1. I was close.
Yeah, you both were close, but you didn't do it. And you won't get it next week either. They'll get tougher and tougher. Avery, thank you, my friend. Being a good sport all night. Great job with the picks with the Wiz and handling the controls behind the scene here live. What's Rich on the SLJ Network. Always a pleasure, my friend. Great work. We're going to meet up soon.
Guys.
We'll finally meet face-to-face whenever soon.
Yeah,
Stay
maybe.
warm. I know it's getting cold out there in Wisconsin. Good luck
Yes,
to
sir.
the Packers. Good luck to the Packers.
We're gonna
All right,
need
Avery,
it.
thanks, my friend. Great job.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And Wiz, as always, a great 2.5 hours of sports with Rich here live on the SLG Network. Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. live, or even longer as we're doing tonight. And, of course, reach me, Ring786 to Twitter, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Leave your comments in the cube. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, to Sports with Rich on the SLG Network, as well as on Rich Mancuso on my YouTube channel. And Wiz, where did they reach you again?
Follow me on Twitter, RobertRiz994, Instagram RRizzo4, Facebook Robert Rizzo. Catch all my daily content on Latino Sports.
Well, things are quieted down for both of us a little bit because soccer's over, MLS. So is baseball, though there's a lot of talk. We talked about that at the beginning of the show all throughout the night. Free agency, general manager meetings, winter meetings coming up. So there's always baseball news. NFL is going on heavy. NBA is starting to pick up. NHL talk. We'll get more of that next weekend on the program. And the NCAA. There's always, and of course, there's pickleball and corn hub or whatever they call it. So we need to check more into that. I'm serious. And I thank again to Dan Good, who wrote about the late Ken Caminiti. And what's the name of the book again, Wiz?
Playing Through the Pain.
And Playing Through the Pain. And Ken was terrific, gave us some great insights. You can pick that book up. I believe it's on Amazon, Abrams Press. And we thank Dan, who did a great job and gave us some great insights on the late Ken Caminiti. And the baseball PEDs and how he came out and admitted it. Great 2.5 hours, Wiz. Thanks again, my friend, my young protege. I'll see you this week. I haven't seen you much in the last 2 weeks. We've both been crazy busy and catching up on things now that baseball is over. But I look forward to seeing you Thursday, my friend. Keep writing as well.
For sure. No, great chat as always. Great coverage as always. Thank you to Jerry Milani for setting up our interview with Dan Good. Thank you for Avery setting up everything behind the scenes. Thank you to the SLG guys. And as always, Tuesday nights on the SLG Network, Sports with Rich.
And we'll be back next week with more, and we'll let you know. Keep in touch with us on social media. Let you know who's going to be on the program next week. We have a lot lined up in the weeks to come. And no, I'm not retiring just as of yet, but pretty soon. All right, Wiz, what do we say as we say goodbye?
Keep it in the ring.
Keep it in the ring, and as always to all of you, God bless, stay safe, and be good to each other. I'm Rich Mancuso. That's the Wiz Robert Rizzo. Till next week, this is Sports with Rich. Good night, everyone.